Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, home to the best names in the sport. Today, the Hall opens its doors to 5 new members, 5 who define the game, each in their own way. Joe Montana was the definition of cool. In a fight against the clock, no lead was safe when Montana was on the field.
This is it. There's no other place to go from the Hall of Fame. So it's almost like you've died and gone to heaven.
Montana is joined by his teammate Ronnie Lott, the defensive leader of the 49er dynasty. His bone-jarring hits created havoc for all opponents.
It comes from your toes. It comes from your soul. It comes from all of who you are, and you deliver that blow.
In the 80s, Howie Long defined toughness. Intimidating and mean, Long was the last link to the Raiders' championship teams.
Mystique is winning. Mystique is playing well. That's what intimidation is.
Dave Wilcox was nicknamed the Intimidator, the 49er linebacker, a model of consistency. He only missed 1 game in his 11-year career. And Dan Rooney, a proud member of one of the first families of football, overseeing the Steeler dynasty that won 4 Super Bowls. 5 men, each taking different paths, but all arriving at the same point in Canton, Ohio, at the Professional Football Hall of Fame. And good morning, live from Canton, Ohio, a day the likes of which this place has never seen, a crowd for the induction the likes of which we've never seen, on the steps, the side of the hills, any place they can cram in around the Pro Football Hall of Fame, just off of I-77 here in Ohio. The names Montana and Rooney and Lott and Long and Wilcox will join the others, and we'll have over 200 in the Hall of Fame. Hey, ESPN, hey, fans. It's really the official start of the football season for so many of us. In that moment when Dwight Clark caught the catch from Joe Montana will be relived and talked about, I'm sure, today. Hi, everyone. Mike Tirico along with Tom Jackson. We welcome you to our coverage of the Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony. Tommy's 14th year at ESPN as an NFL analyst, and we've talked about this before. What you're going to see in the next half hour is something the likes of which you have never seen and will never see again. You're going to see 111 Pro Football Hall of Famers in the same spot be introduced. It's added to an atmosphere with a great class that is as good as I've ever seen around any Hall of Fame, Tom.
Well, always a lot of history when we come here, Mike, even more with the returning Hall of Famers. And what a great class we have in Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, Howie Long, Dave Wilcox, including Dan Rooney, 4 of my contemporaries. It seems like every year I come here, and I've come to 14 now, always someone I helped get into the Hall of Fame. This year it's Joe Montana.
Montana is certainly the headliner of this class, and the San Francisco feel has added to it, but don't you think that this great idea to bring back all the Hall of Famers for this 2000 Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony, 136 living, all were invited, 111 are here, doesn't have a much different feel to it?
Well, I think a much different feel, and you can feel it with the crowd. As Mike said, we've never had these many people here for the ceremonies. And then talking to Paul Warfield this morning, he's hoping that this will make a lot more Hall of Famers come back year in and year out.
Very simply, there has never been any Hall of Fame with any type of ceremony with this many of the greats at the site for the induction day. You're going to see a treat over the next 3 hours, especially the next 30 minutes. So if you know a fan who's a friend who's a football fan, I'd call him and tell him to watch. We'll be back with the induction, the interviews, the ceremonies, and a great afternoon and late morning here in Ohio. The Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony. It promises to be special, and we'll be back after this.
Recently, the Pro Football Hall of Fame unveiled its state-of-the-art rotating theater, Game Day Stadium. Now, through the creative expertise of NFL Films, Game Day Stadium has gone to the next level with its new feature attraction, Championship Chase. From the rigors of training camp to the Super Bowl celebration, Championship Chase delivers the full force of pro football energy right into the lap of every Game Day Stadium visitor. Championship Chase, only at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. See it soon.
Welcome back to Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We had a shower earlier today, but it seems like the skies are clearing and the sun is coming out. The person you see on the stage and the voice you hear in the background is our own Chris Berman, who will be the master of ceremonies for this Hall of Fame induction ceremony. He'll be introducing all the Hall of Famers coming up here in a little bit. Tom, when we talk about this class of 2000, we'll have plenty of time to hear their speeches and talk about them in a little bit, but I'm always interested to see how the other Hall of Famers interact amongst one another. To see a Gale Sayers share a word and a smile with not only the current Hall of Fame class, but the past guys, it really warms your heart and reminds you how special and small this group really is.
Well, more often than not, I've shed a tear at this ceremony. And I think that it is a very special fraternity when you talk about the Hall of Famers. In the case of the class that's going in today, no less than 7 Pro Bowls for those players going in. So they had achieved excellence over a long period of time. Dave Wilcox missing only 1 football game in his career. So, you know, when you get into the Hall of Fame, I think maybe other than winning the Super Bowl or being MVP of the Super Bowl, which we have players who've done both here today, this is the most special moment in your professional life.
Right. When we come back, you'll see the 111 Hall of Famers introduced on stage. Stay with us. Here's Chris Berman. Chris.
Mike Tirico, Tom Jackson, thank you from the Department of Redundancy Department. We welcome you around the nation and around the world to what is the greatest assembly of pro football talent the world has ever seen. They began enshrining the legends of the gridiron here in 1963. With the addition of our illustrious class of 2000, there are now 204 Hall of Famers. 136 are living. 111 of them have honored us by returning here to Canton this weekend. It is now our turn to honor them. We're going to bring them out quickly, just like they played on the field. Now, don't be afraid to let them know how much you appreciate what they accomplished and thank them for all the chills and thrills that they gave us throughout the years. And now, here they are. Oh, I think we start pretty high here. The Kansas Comet, Gale Sayers. Oh, I think we continue pretty high here. The feared David Deacon Jones. He ate raw meat and other delights. From the 49ers, Bob St. Clair. Was there a more feared tight end than John Mackey? The inimitable New York Giants owner, Wellington Mara. From the Cleveland Browns, Lou the Toe Groza. From the New York Football Giants, Roosevelt Brown. They traded 9 players for him once. Ollie Matson. The Philadelphia Eagles, Pete Pios. Mike Ditka. The middle linebacker extraordinaire from the Kansas City Chiefs, Willie Lanier. From the Oakland Raiders, Gene Upshaw. Was he feared in front of the sweep or what? From the Miami Dolphins, Larry Little. He carried 6 defenders on his back with no problem. From the Green Bay Packers, Jim Taylor. At the corner for the Cowboys, Mel Renfro. He was the Oakland Raiders. 00 center, Jim Otto. Mr. Cowboy, Bob Lilly. From the Los Angeles Rams, Tom Mack. Vince Lombardi called him the greatest player I ever coached. He ought to know. Forrest Gregg. At the corner, leave him by himself, no problem. Willie Brown from the Raiders. "10 years in the NFL, 10 championship game appearances." From the Cleveland Browns, Automatic Otto Graham. From the Patriots and the Raiders at corner, Michael Haynes. An outside linebacker way ahead of his time with the Chiefs, Bobby Bell. Smooth as silk from the Browns and the Dolphins, Paul Warfield. Still looking like he could dart through opposing defenders. From the Niners, Joe the Jet Perry. One of the founding fathers of the AFL and still an NFL stalwart. President, owner, Kansas City Chiefs, Lamar Hunt. Dolphins, Vikings, center Jim Langer. One of last year's enshrinees from the old AFL Buffalo Bills, Billy Shaw. It was for a drum roll only. The Washington Redskins, who was smoother at wide receiver than Charlie Taylor? At defensive end, the statuesque Baltimore Colt, Gino Marchetti. He won more games than anyone else, Don Shula. From your Cleveland Browns, Dante Lavelli. From last year's class, 2,105 yards, Eric Dickerson. Down in the fourth quarter, no problem, Roger Staubach. Bullet, Bill Dudley. The longtime coach of the San Francisco 49ers, Bill Walsh. Player and front office extraordinaire, Mike McCormick. Let's see. There were 4 Super Bowls he coached in. I think he won them all. Chuck Noll. From the Miami Dolphins, Bob Greasy. From the San Francisco 49ers of yesteryear, Hurricane Hugh McElhaney. For the Washington Redskins, Bobby Mitchell. The Detroit Lions, defensive back Yale Larry. From your Cleveland Browns, the Wizard of Oz, Ozzie Newsome. one of the truly great running backs who was also ahead of his time, from the Baltimore Colts, Lenny Moore. At corner and return man, he was just good. For the Detroit Lions, Lem Barney. He's in this Hall of Fame and soon the Broadcast Hall of Fame. Dan Fouts. He could carry the ball pretty well, don't you think, for the Dallas Cowboys? Tony Dorsett. There is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer in here because he played defensive end as well as anyone. Leroy Selman. Do you remember Walt Garrison stopped on the 1 foot line? Oh, I think you do. He does too. Kenny Houston. From the Philadelphia Eagles, dancing Tommy McDonald. Tommy always throws us for a little loop, you know. He had more interceptions than anyone else. From the Minnesota Vikings, Paul Krause. From the Steelers and coaching with the Cowboys, Ernie Stautner. From the New York Football Giants, defensive end Andy Robustelli. From the Dallas Cowboys, the Manster, Randy White. Stan Jones. Tight end Jackie Smith. Hard hit at safety, no problem. Larry Wilson from the Cardinals. I think he could play some offensive tackle, don't you? From the Cincinnati Bengals, Anthony Munoz. It's an honor to do this at this time from the Raiders, Al Davis. The venerable, speaking of Raiders and Oilers and playing forever, he could still play, George Blanda. The good time we had watching him was only surpassed by the good time he had. Fill in the blanks. Paul Hornung. Linebacker for the Giants, Skins, Sam Huff. An original AFLer from the San Diego Chargers at tackle, Ron Mix. Please welcome Lou Kriegmer. He's the only member of the Hall of Fame that came to this country on a ski jumping scholarship. From the Kansas City Chiefs, Jan Stenerud. Can we still go both ways? I thought so. From the Philadelphia Eagles, Chuck Bednarik. When he retired, he had all the records. Now he's a U.S. Congressman. Steve Largent from the Seahawks. Center for the Miami Dolphins, Dwight Stevenson. Was he feared in the middle just a little bit? From the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jack Lambert. But he had some company on the steel curtain, like cornerback Mel Blount. And he had some company on offense, like running back Franco Harris. How he threw all those yards sidearm, we'll never know. Sonny Jurgensen. No one had a better time than linebacker Ted Hendricks, the Mad Stork. Need someone to go across the middle for the Raiders? No problem. Fred Biletnikoff. He elevated the position of wide receiver to new levels from the Baltimore Colts, Raymond Berry. Canton's owned, borrowed by the Cardinals, Dan Deerdorf. Dare I say, briefly, my partner. But a long time before that, beloved running back, New York Football Giants, Frank Gifford. Number 13 for the New York Jets, Don Maynard. But someone had to throw him all those balls, didn't they? And that someone might have been number 12, Joe Willie Namath. I wore white shoes because of him, I got to admit. The anchor on the line for the Steel Curtain defense, Mean Joe Green. It's a 49er day. Here's Leo Namalini. We welcome back to Canton, Frank Gansky. We welcome back to Canton, Chicago Cardinal Charlie Trippi. He's here every year, Bill Willis. The beloved Baltimore Colt, Art Donovan. A member of the Monsters of the Midway, Doug Atkins. At 88 years young, the father of the modern passing game, say hello to Sid Gilman. Number 24 from the Green Bay Packers, Willie Wood. Running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, hard charging Steve Van Buren. Welcome back to Canton, George Connor.
Well, there you have it. There's never been a better team assembled. The Pro Football Hall of Fame, the living members that came back, 5 new enshrinees to join them. We'll let you look at that picture, because If you've watched football, you can tell a million stories by looking at that picture. We'll be right back.
Making a stand. He played the game as defensive end like it always does.
Welcome back live to Canton, Ohio. Joe Montana joining the other Hall of Famers who've returned and getting the most raucous reception.
Today it's fitting.
Chris Berman's continuing to introduce the 5 inductees, the class of 2000. We'll see so much of them today. We've already seen Howie Long and Ronnie Lott introduced. The other 2 in this class of 2000 are about to come out. Dan Rooney, the man behind the Steelers. Tom Jackson, as we watch those 4 and now Dave Wilcox, the 5th, we're going to hear if they will have their moment in the sun as the afternoon goes on and our 3 hours of coverage continues. But look at those steps, look at those Hall of Famers, and just look at the backslapping, the joking, the smiling. There's never been a picture like that in any sport anywhere.
And we have never seen a collection of talent like that standing on those steps. Those 111 Hall of Famers. And certainly I get chills as I'm sitting here watching the names be introduced and watching the 5 guys that are going in today. It's just this is as special a moment as we have had here in Canton, Ohio.
From the Cleveland Browns, running back Leroy Kelly.
We are very mindful historically of the NBA doing its 50 greatest players at the All-Star Game, celebrating its 50th anniversary, and that truly was special within its right. But double that number and add the site that this is happening in Canton, Ohio, where the game was, in a way, put together for the way we enjoy it now. Canton, Ohio, September of 1920, the National Football League charter formed, and now they take the formal picture. All together, 111 strong, the greatest football players of all time. Commissioner Paul Tagliabue and the ceremonies as we normally enjoy them come up after this as we continue on one of the most special days the Pro Football Hall of Fame has and will ever see. There is more coming from Canton tonight. Solomon Wilcox, along with Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz, will present an ESPN Classic Pro Football Hall of Fame special featured Chris Berman, a 3-part interview with Class 2000 inductee Joe Montana. Back in Canton right after this. Back in Canton, everyone has found their seats on the stage. And we'll go back to Chris Berman for the rest of the program as it continues as the Suns come out here in Canton. Chris.
Very quickly, his tenure and his mark on the National Football League are growing by leaps and bounds. About to start his 11th year as commissioner of the National Football League, please welcome Paul Tagliabue.
Good afternoon. Each year, this Hall of Fame weekend is a very special occasion. This year, it's not just special, it's a historic occasion. A once-in-the-century reunion of more than 100 men with extraordinary hearts, extraordinary passion, and extraordinary achievements. Behind me, joining the class of 2000, you see most of the Hall of Famers of the 20th century here this weekend for pro football's greatest reunion ever. We in the NFL are kicking off a new century, and there's no better way to do it than with this reunion. I want to thank the people of Canton. Each year, you do the exceptional. This year, you've done the impossible. You've hosted the most extraordinary reunion with extraordinary class. We thank you. Now let's kick off the 21st century with today's induction ceremony.
Thank you, Commissioner. Why was Dave Wilcox such a disruptive force at linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers? Well, it's easy. He said, I just hate to be blocked. For more on the man known as the Intimidator, here's our Susie Colbert.
From 1964 to 74, Dave Wilcox was a standout on defense for the San Francisco 49ers. During that 11-year span, he played in 153 out of 154 games and intercepted 14 passes. But his 49er career nearly never was. The year he was drafted, Houston of the rival AFL chose him in the 6th round, while San Francisco of the NFL selected him in round 3. A difficult choice, but one Wilcox based upon his Oregon roots.
One of the reasons I signed with the 49ers, Lynn Casanova, my college coach, told me that he needed to talk to me, and one of the owners at the time, a guy named Franklin Muley, was an Oregon grad, and I think Kaz said I need to sign with him, so I did it.
Nicknamed the Intimidator, Wilcox was ideally suited for the linebacker position, both mentally and physically. Always prepared, he was a student of the game and worked to be fundamentally correct.
I didn't want to get blocked, and when we played defense, everybody had a certain area of responsibility. And I wanted to make sure that I took care of that, and I didn't want to be the guy that screwed the play up. And so I studied that. I mean, they talk about focus, and golfers talk about visualizing things and stuff. That's the way I did. We'd get ready to play a game. I visualized plays and how the defenses were and where my feet were and all those things. And that's, I really enjoyed. It's kind of like a chess match, if you would.
A chess match Wilcox usually won, leading to 7 Pro Bowl selections.
I remember in 1970, and that was the first year of the AFL NFL Pro Bowl. And I remember standing on the sideline as they were introducing the players, and I'm standing there with the NFC guys, and just looking around and seeing there's 80 or whatever number it was of the greatest players in the world on the field at one time.
As for his most memorable individual matchup, perhaps the one guy he couldn't stop.
The greatest performance that I was a part of and helped in, it was Gale Sayers, and when he scored 6 touchdowns. And I think they did that in 3 quarters, and he got so tired he couldn't run anymore. But that was unbelievable.
21 years after he first became eligible, Wilcox now joins Sayers and other greats in the Hall.
The day that they called us, that was on our anniversary. We'd been married 28 years. So I went to get donuts at the local Safeway here, and I came home and was talking to my youngest son. And my oldest son was in Las Vegas, probably having donuts too, I'm sure. And he called us and said, you ought to turn the TV on. You've just been elected to the Hall of Fame. I said, well, we ought to do that then. And then we spent about 3 or 4 hours on the phone. So it was really fun. I've had a great time with it. There again, just to be included in this group is really special.
Thank you, Susie. To present Dave Wilcox today, please welcome his former position coach at linebacker with the San Francisco 49ers, Mike Giddings.
The video says it all. This man was a human highlight film in his own right. You longtime fans, doesn't it seem like yesterday that the 49er number 64 was standing cross-legged at the line of scrimmage, his hands on his hip, looking and glaring down the other team's offense? Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to hear from the greatest intimidating outside linebacker of all time. This is a bold statement by his position coach, so let's listen to what a couple of others said. First of all, from 70, 71, 72, we won the NFC West, only to be knocked out of the big one by Tom Landry's Dallas Cowboys. Before one of those games, Coach Landry was asked, how do you attack that tough 49er defense? He simply replied, the first thing you do is to figure out what to do away from their left outside linebacker. Had the pleasure of coaching a couple of Pro Bowls with Dick Butkus at middle linebacker. A few years back, I asked Dick, what do you think of the qualifications for this year's senior inductee for Canton? He said simply, name me a better one. Those two roamed for a decade NFL fields, simply throwing foes aside when they got in the way. Our great quarterback, the cerebral John Brody, probably summed it up best. All the man did was take the outside linebacker position and make it more important than the tight end. Our tough, strong safety, Mel Phillips, the DB coach for Miami under coaches Shula Johnson and now Wanstead, added, this man added 5 years to my career because the tight end simply never got off the line of scrimmage. There's been great outside linebackers follow this man, Hendricks, Ham, Taylor, et al. He changed the position. He was a absolutely strong, naturally strong Vail, Oregon farm boy. I used to say that his triceps went from his earlobe to his wrists. He simply manhandled blockers, but he had one concern. Mike, don't let me ever get beat deep on a pass. Well, this was tough because we always ask our outside backer to neutralize the tight end first, then cover the running back man-to-man. Very, very difficult when facing the Unitas Colts because they have the great John Mackey at tight end and the then league's fastest fullback, Norm Bulash. Sure enough, we're back in Baltimore early on. Mackey blocks down. Here comes Bulash around the corner. Your inductee in hot pursuit, 40 yards downfield, knocks down a pass with one of the great open field plays these eyes have ever seen. That closed the scouting report. You can't run at him, you can't pass on him, so just stay away from him. We had a special linebacker esprit de corps with the Niners. Two middle linebackers, Ed Beard and Frank Nunley, our right outside backer, Skip Vanderbutt, and our key backup, Jim Snydecki. I think a key tribute to any player, they're all here today to pay tribute to this man as a great player and a great person. Anyone who's coached this game on any level knows there's a key saying when you're surrounded by great players. Life has few moments such as this. For 6 years, I had that feeling. Canton, Ohio, the feeling is back. Life has few moments such as this. I am indeed honored to present the pride of Vail, Oregon, the pride of the University of Oregon, the heart and soul of the first NFC West 49er champions, the proud husband of Merle, the proud father of footballing sons Josh and Justin, and a longtime member of the Junction City School Board, Mr. Dave Wilcox.
This is great, isn't it? Well, I got my 8 minutes. Mike, you used about 4 of them, so I'm going to hurry. First of all, I want to thank all the people from Canton, Ohio. What a great experience this has been. You're the greatest. And I want to thank all the Hall of Fame people behind me for welcoming me into this special place. Thank all of you players before us that made the game what it is today. I want to thank all the people who have had a part in making this day. I want to thank all the Wilcoxes that are here. We'd be here for an hour and a half and named them all with brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. Thanks for coming, guys. I want to thank all my friends that made the journey here. Thank you. I know there was hardships and special things. Thanks for coming. I need to say happy birthday to Gladys, my mother-in-law. She was 90 years old yesterday and couldn't make it. She's in Florida. I need to thank my coaches in Vail, Oregon, my high school. Special memory for Arnie Lewis and his family. From Boise Junior College, my old coach Lyle Smith and his wife, and a coach Ray Lewis. Thanks, guys. From Deacon Kula. From Oregon, Lynn Casanova and his staff. And I want to thank Lou Spady, the general manager of the 49ers, and the Morabito family and Franklin Muley for giving me the opportunity to play football. And I want to thank all my 49er teammates, Tommy Hart, Jimmy Johnson, Mel Phillips, Ed Beard, Nunley, Cedric Hardman, Kruger, Matt Hazeltine, John Brody, Skip, Kaz, Snydecki, and I'm missing some of you. And thanks, guys, for allowing me to be part of their team. I want to thank Chico, our equipment man, for making sure all the rookies made sure what their place were when they came in. Chico also made sure a few of us were well stocked with refreshment on those long 5-hour plane trips home. Thanks, Chico. I want to thank Dr. Milburn, a great doctor and a genuine fine person. And I want to thank the fans over the many years that I played from Vail, Boise, Eugene, and San Francisco. And thanks to all the people who have joined us here today on this very special occasion. Now we come to what I'll call the Billy Shaw rule. And for God's sakes, introduce your wife, Billy. My wife, Merle. The announcement came on her 28th anniversary in January the 29th. I want to introduce our son, Josh, WWF wannabe. And Justin, a WWF not wannabe. I want to thank all the Hall of Fame staff and for their help for the last few months. Thank the selection committee, and a special thanks to Paul Zimmerman, Ira Miller, and Bob Angelo. Thanks, guys, for helping me get here. Congratulations, Ronnie, Howie, Mr. Rooney, and Joe Montana. What a year to be selected to join these past greats. It is indeed an honor to stand up here in front of the greatest football players of all time and be included in that group. If you think about it, of all the people who have played this game, from Little League, junior high, college, pro, and you select a few for enshrinement, this is truly amazing. Football has given me a chance to meet people from all parts of the world, travel to all parts, and have lots of memories. I did not have championship rings, but I have memories, and I'll share some of those with you today. Growing up in Eastern Oregon, I actually wanted to play baseball. Harmon Killebrew, a Hall of Famer from Payette, Idaho, was my idol. But we never had a chance to play baseball much in Vail, so I played football. Vail High School in 50 years has won 11 state championships. We've won 2 state championships and finished second and third once. Boise Junior College, great experience. In Oregon, we played Ohio State and Penn State, Texas. I played in the Sun Bowl, the Hula Bowl, the Coaches All-Star Game, College All-Star Game in Chicago. I played at Oregon with great Mel Renfro. What a wonderful player. I played in the All-Star Games with Charlie Taylor and Paul Warfield, Paul Kraus, Carl Eller, to name a few. My first year with the 49ers, thought we were doing great. We won 4 games. After that year, I'd started 12 of those games, went in and asked for a raise. I'd been making $12,500. I asked for a $1,500 raise. Lou Spady had told me if he was going to pay me that much, he could not afford to keep me. So I settled for a $300 raise so the team would have money to give some of the other guys raises. Thanks a lot, Lou. When I tell people that play with the 49ers, they ask if I played with Joe Montana. Tell them I played before Joe and money. Dan Fouts was our ball boy and was also in charge of keeping the water bucket full. It started Dan on a career to the broadcast. He helped him get him where he is today. I remember bringing Lynn Swan along with Dan and his buddy Ahmad Rashad to my football camp, early 70s, and watched those guys grow on and have great careers. And what a lot of fun it's been for me. I remember playing in Baltimore when the Unitas was great, and every time they scored a touchdown, this horse would circle the stadium. When the 49ers came to play, they'd bring a trailer load of horses. I actually felt sorry for those horses as many times they had to run around that damn stadium. I played in a game in Kezar when Jim Marshall picked up the ball and ran the wrong way. To give you an idea how good we were, two of our guys were chasing him, were going to try to tackle him. But thank God Jim was faster and didn't catch him. Another part of history was a game in Chicago. We watched Gale Sayers score 6 touchdowns. If the Bears hadn't ran out of oxygen, he might have scored 6 more. It was the greatest performance in football history. And I remember going to the Pro Bowl that year and being so excited because Gale was going to be on the same team I was on, and I was going to see him up close for the first time. I remember being selected to play in the Pro Bowl the first year the AFL and NFL All-Star game played together. And I remember standing on the field by Deacon Jones or Butkus or some of those guys and just being in awe of all the talent on that field. And I said, Dave, how did you ever get here from Vail, Oregon? What a great feeling that was. Now, 30 years later, I'm standing here with the greatest of all time. I don't have words that would do justice for this moment, but I want to leave you with this thought. There are now 204 people in the Hall of Fame. A maximum of 7 people are elected each year for the next 100 years. There will be 904 people. Think of how many guys have been associated with this game in the past and how many will be involved in the next 100 years. There are only so few that make it to this select group. Amazing, isn't it? Again, thanks. This is just so very special.
Tommy, as a linebacker, I'm sure you have an appreciation with what the fans just saw of the man's ability, Dave Wilcox.
Well, when you watch that highlight package, you never saw a running back or a wide receiver fall forward, a tremendous hitter, an intimidator. And Mike, I think the most difficult thing to do when you play football is to play with a team that isn't winning. They won near the end of his career, but they weren't winning at the beginning and in the middle of his career, and he maintained a level of excellence that got him to Canton, Ohio. So, you know, what a great player Dave Wilcox was.
And a great speech. He's the 5th Oregon Duck to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. When we come back, the first ever Villanova Wildcat. Howie Long went from college, not stardom in Philadelphia, to stardom on the West Coast with the Oakland and mostly the Los Angeles Raiders. Number 75 in silver and black, inducted into the Hall when you come back. Back in Canton, back to Chris.
Howie Long played with the spirit. We should try the mic. Does it work now? Ah. Modern technology, it's an amazing thing here in the 21st century. Howie Long played with the spirit and mental and physical toughness long associated with the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders. It takes a great defensive player to know one. That's why, for a closer look at Howie's 13 years with the Silver and Black, we call on my longtime colleague and AFC West warrior, Tom Jackson.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song, he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you around and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
Howie Long was the final link to the great Raider teams of old. He exemplified the team's commitment to excellence that was passed down to him by the greats who wore the silver and black.
I played with many, many great players, many Hall of Famers. Those were the guys that had the biggest influence on me, how to act, how to play, how to work, what being a Raider meant.
Long not only had to learn about being a Raider, but about being a football player. When Oakland selected him in the second round of the 1981 draft, he had great physical talent, but he had a lot to learn.
It was a bit much at first. It took a while for me. I recall sitting in the meetings and them going over, you know, out of east, near eye, right, they like to run, you know, flip 68 toss tag or 14 Bill Joker O or counter 66 Trey OT. And I remember honestly thinking to myself, looking around in the room, kind of trying to be inconspicuous, you know, is anyone else not getting this? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. Half formation, full formation. We didn't go over that kind of thing at Villanova.
From the classroom to the field, Raiders defensive line coach Earl Leggett challenged Long, drilling and experimenting with him to create the prototypical defensive lineman of the future.
He worked me beyond comprehension. He played me at every position up and down the line. And at the time, I didn't understand it. I did not understand why on one series I was playing left end, left tackle, nose guard, right tackle, right end, whatever it might be. And then I came to realize that what he was doing was, and we were the first ones to do this from a scheme standpoint, was I would just move up and down the line. Through him, I felt like I had an opportunity to redefine the way the positions were played.
Through Leggett's tutelage, Long defined his role as a complete player, a defender who played the run and the pass with equal ability and intensity.
I never really understood the logic of, well, I got hooked 14 times, but I got a sack. I was never a stat guy. I took a great deal of, as much pride in playing a counter Trey OT as I did rushing the quarterback. There's not a lot of guys right now that take a great deal of pride in their complete game.
Long retired at age 34 while still in his prime. He played in 8 Pro Bowls and recorded 91.5 career sacks.
And a defensive coordinator once said this to me, named Dave Adolph. And he said, at the end of the day, at the end of your career, if you do not give 100% to everything you do here, the classroom, the practice field, the game field, it will haunt you the rest of your life. I sleep well. I wasn't always perfect. I made mistakes, but I always had a great deal of respect for what the NFL stood for. I had a great deal of respect for the people I played against, and I gave every ounce of effort I had. And there's nothing left to give, and I'm glad it's over because I'm exhausted.
Good job, Tommy. To present Howie Long today, please welcome Howie's position coach of defensive line with the Raiders, a former first-round pick of the Chicago Bears, Earl Leggett.
Good afternoon. My being involved in this event goes to show you that anything's possible. Not only do I consider this a great honor, but I've been waiting with tremendous pride because a player that I coached has been selected to the Hall of Fame. Now, for all this to happen, a lot of sacrifices, decisions, and lifetime memories occur. Now, we don't have time to go into all the sacrifices or all the decisions or all the lifetime memories, but some need to be addressed. One of the things that we discussed in our player meetings was that in our business, a good wife is hard to find. No words are truer than these. Behind every successful man is a dedicated woman. So when you find one, treat her with respect. Diane, it was a tough 13 years. A lot of sacrifices. You did a great job. Made my job easier. The person who made all this possible was Mr. Al Davis and his Raider organization. Mr. Davis' second-round selection in 1981 set the wheels in motion. It was a right pick at the right time for the right player. I cannot picture Howie Long being anything but a Raider. Mr. Davis, I want to thank you because you certainly made the job easier. Now let's get to the memories of watching a rookie over a span of 13 seasons develop into one of the top players. Seeing number 75 slash through the line, make the big play, or have the quarterback on the run, or his development in defeating blocking combinations. Also the after-game sessions with the opposing offensive line coach, our owner, or for the summons by the head coach to come to his office to tone Howie's play down in practice because sometimes it got heated. And I won't forget how you paid the price to be great. The fellowship that we had at Saturday night dinners, what great fun they were. These memories will last forever. In 1981, as we were preparing for the upcoming draft, trying to put players in draft order, I was sent out to scout a college senior at Villanova by Mr. Davis through Ron Wood. I had seen some tapes of his season and postseason games. So I scheduled the workout, made the trip to Villanova, and his workout was very impressive. I returned to the Raiders, and in our draft meeting, I recommended him as a #1 draft choice. Mr. Davis had seen some of the same qualities that I had seen and drafted him in the second round. Howie came into minicamp, and we went to work. I would hope that you coaches, would-be coaches, and want-to-be coaches, no matter what sport, could have someone who was as focused, determined, and knew exactly what he wanted. Not only did he have the qualities that you put in the measurable categories, such as strength, quickness, and size, but his greatest assets were the intangibles. Posted around our defensive line meeting room, we had certain slogans. And one that I really try to drive home, it goes like this: I want to surround myself with players who will pay the price to become great and then become their leader. Howie was the best leader that I've ever been associated with, not only in his professional life, but in his personal life. He has a knack of raising everyone a notch higher. He had total focus, a student of the game, but more important, or the most important, was the intangibles. #1, his ability to tell when he had leverage on an opposing player. 2, his outstanding work ethics. And 3, the total fear of not being successful. Now listen one more time. 13 years, 8 Pro Bowls, 3-time Lineman of the Year, 1-time Defensive Player of the Year, 1-time Comeback Player of the Year, first team decade of the 80s. Howie was like a coach on the field. In those 13 years, I thought that he became the most disrupting force in football. Howie complained that I never said he did a good job. I always told him, that's what you get paid for. But now is the time to say, Howie, good job, a job well done, Howie Long.
Thank you. Well, the over and the under on who would cry first was, the even money was on Ronnie. We never factored Earl in. You know, I can't help but think, I was walking through the hallway leading into the platform that is the Hall of Fame, watching all the great former players being introduced. And a thing that Charlie Sumner, my old defensive coordinator, used to say before every game came to mind, and I shared it with my fellow inductees. He said, well, they showed up. I guess we're gonna have to play. Well, you folks showed up. I guess we're gonna have to do this thing. First, I'd like to thank the city of Canton. Their warmth and hospitality I will not soon forget. I'd also like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, in particular John Bankert and Tammy Owens, for helping to make this week's event so special for both my family and me. I'd also like to thank the Hall of Fame voters, and in particular Frank Cooney and Will McDonough. Theirs is a job that is particularly tough. They are not only given the responsibility of dictating the legacy of today's inductees and the many players who have come before us, but also the legacy of the National Football League. I'd also like to congratulate my fellow inductees, the class of 2000, and what a group it is. I've had 5 or 6 clean shots on Joe, but I didn't take it. His kids are too cute. That's the only thing that saved you, Joe. I'm honored to be going in with such an outstanding group. Men who helped define their eras in pro football. But more importantly, a first-class group of men. I've always had an appreciation for the history of the National Football League. And today, the class of 2000 has the good fortune of sharing the stage with the many great players who helped pave the way for not only today's inductees, but the many players who play the game today. A number of these great men influenced my career as a young man. Guys like Bob Lilly, Leroy Selman, Randy White, and Joe Green, and I even go as far back as Gino Marchetti. These were men I studied and I admired. I tried to take a piece of each and every one of their games and incorporate them into the way I played. Another player who influenced my career as a young player was a guy by the name of Joe Klecko. He made the Pro Bowl as a defensive end, defensive tackle, and as a nose tackle. In my opinion, if it were not for an injury-shortened career, he might well be sitting behind me here today. Personally, it's very difficult to put into perspective what this means to me, this great honor. In the 80 years of the National Football League, over 18,000 men have played this game, many great players. Of those 18,000 plus players, 171 have ended up in this final glorious destination. Of those 171, only 7 have been defensive ends. I, for one, believe that being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is the most prestigious individual honor in all of sports. Baseball has been called America's pastime. And since my retirement through my 3 sons, I've come to appreciate the ability of baseball to bring families closer together, and in particular, fathers and sons. In my opinion, baseball is America's pastime, but football is truly America's passion. As Earl pointed out, I think back at the beginning of my career when a man named Al Davis drafted a kid out of Villanova in the 2nd round. And at that time, many of the football experts viewed that pick as a stretch, a reach, a surprise. But Al Davis saw something in me that many, including myself, did not. The Raiders were a team steeped in history. And from the moment I walked into the Raider camp, I could feel it. It was all around me. People who not only defined what the Raiders were about, but also defined what the National Football League was all about. John Madden, George Blanda, Ted Hendricks, Jim Otto, Willie Brown, Fred Biletnikoff, and Gene Upshaw and Art Shell helped bring me up. Then, of course, there was an owner named Al Davis, whose passion for winning was unparalleled in sports. So it's understandable that when you're around people like that on a daily basis, you allow yourself to dream just a little bit, albeit way in the back of your mind. Dream of someday maybe being one of them. But at that time, taking a place in football history with those great men was just a dream and nothing more. I am extremely proud to have been a Raider. I'm also proud to have played my entire career with the Raiders, something that rarely happens in today's game. When I first learned of my election, I gave a great deal of thought to who would be my presenter. My first thought was to have my 15-year-old son, Christopher, be my presenter and do the honor. But when we discussed it, although Christopher is never at a loss for words, he felt that maybe this would be a little bit too much for even him to handle. But it was extremely important for me that he know that he was my first choice. It was shortly after that the Hall of Fame committee was kind enough to invite the inductees to the Pro Bowl. There at a breakfast, Willie Lanier spoke to us about our induction. One of the topics discussed was who would be our presenter. And what Willie said helped make my choice an easy one. The person you choose as your presenter should be the person that's had the most to do with you being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Earl Leggett was not only my defensive line coach, he was like a second father to me. Playing for Earl was a lot like playing for John Wayne. He was tough, hard-headed, and unrelenting, and still is. I've often kidded Earl that the only reason that it took me 2 years to figure out how to play in the National Football League was because I couldn't understand a damn thing he was saying. You see, Earl's from Mississippi or Louisiana or Florida or somewhere down there, and I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, so obviously there was a language barrier. Although some of the things that he did call me early on in my career, even people from Boston would understand. Playing for Earl was not for everyone. And my teammates who are out there in the audience, I see Marcus Allen, Sean Jones, those guys will attest to the work that we had to go through. I saw many players over the years fall by the wayside trying to attempt to get through an Earl Leggett training camp. Getting through one of those camps was a lot like climbing Mount Everest in the 1920s without oxygen. Our defensive line, in my opinion, was the best prepared group in football. Earl took me to a place physically and mentally that I had no idea that I could reach. He challenged me on every single snap, on every single day. He challenged me not only to play one position, but all 5 defensive line positions, and was unrelenting in his pursuit of perfection. There were many days early on in my career if I wondered if, in fact, I would survive. At the time, it never occurred to me that many of the lessons that I learned under Earl would not only serve me well in football, but also in life. Earl stressed commitment, hard work, sacrifice, and the will to be the best. And most importantly, how to be a man. In many ways, Earl has played a significant role in not only my football career, but also in the success that I've been fortunate enough to have after football. That is why it is so special for me to have Earl be a part of today's great honor. Obviously, today's induction is an individual honor. But any time an honor such as this is bestowed upon an individual, the many people who touch that individual along the way hopefully can take a little piece of it home with them. I've had the good fortune of crossing paths with a number of people over the years who hopefully feel that they can take a piece of today home with them. First, I'd like to recognize the many players whom I had the privilege of playing with during my career, and in particular, the core group of my defensive line. The late Lyle Alzado, Cedric Hardman, who was my roommate my rookie year. You want to talk about an odd combination. Greg, how's that? You played with Cedric and I played with Cedric. How old is Cedric? Greg Townsend, Reggie Kinlaw, Sean Jones, who I see in the back of the audience, Mitch Willis, and in particular Bill Piquel, whose friendship, loyalty, and sense of humor taught me what a true friend is. Al Davis, for taking a chance on me and giving me the opportunity to wear the silver and black, for always being there for me through the years and believing in me. More importantly, though, for being so kind to my family, and in particular, my grandmother, Elizabeth Mullen. Dick Corbin, who gave me my start as a high school football player, and to his wife, Ruth Ann, for all of their support through high school. My years at Villanova were the best of times. And two people in particular who were always there for me I'd like to recognize. Lou Ferry, my defensive line coach. His true heart, his humor, and his love for the game is what makes him so special to so many of his former players. Bob Capone, who recruited me to Villanova and always looked out for me through thick and thin, and God knows there was some thick. And I'm happy to say that many years have passed, but our friendship remains a constant. Betty Peters, who began as my assistant and has become like family to me and my entire family. To my parents, who brought me into this world. My uncles, whose character, integrity, and sense of family I have always admired. My Uncle Billy and Aunt Ada, who took in a troubled 13-year-old while raising 4 children of their own. As time has passed, I've come to realize what a tremendous sacrifice they made for me. If not for them, I would not be here today. My cousin Michael, who I always admired growing up and viewed as an older brother. To my grandmother, Ma Mullen, whose undying love and support for me through my childhood meant so much. I only wish she could be here today. But I know in my heart she's up there somewhere saying, see, I told you you'd be somebody special. And finally, to my family, who I love so much, our 3 sons, Christopher, Kyle, and Howie. Although I'm so proud that they are here to be a part of this amazing event, my relationship with them could not be any further removed from the world of football. So it's been extremely rewarding in the days leading up to today's inductions to watch their faces while they watch many different sports programs, in many cases for the first time seeing footage of their dad playing football. To watch their reactions, how proud and surprised they appear to be. To hear them say, wow, Dad, you were pretty good. You were tough, too. That in and of itself eclipses any award that I can receive. For their love means more to me than anything in the world. I'm fading. My wife, Diane, who sacrificed so much for our children and me, who walked away from a career as a corporate litigator after our 3rd son, Howie, was born, so that I could continue to pursue my dream. For 22 years, she has been my best friend, my biggest supporter, my biggest critic, my voice of reason, and my shrink. Her love for my 3 sons, her love for me, her selflessness, her compassion, her kindness challenged me to be a better father, a better husband, and a better person every day. I tell my boys how blessed we are to have her. In conclusion, I think back to something Earl Leggett said to me way back in 1981 when I first arrived at the Raiders. And keep in mind, I was not a very good football player when I did arrive there. He said, "Kid, if you work hard and you do what I tell you to do, I'll make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. And I'll make you a household name in every home in America." Well, Earl, we missed free agency by a few years. But I have to admit, it's a hell of a lot more famous than I could have ever dreamed. Thank you.
Very eloquent Howie Long, as you would expect. Tommy, the first 2 speakers brought to mind something that hit home with you.
Well, I think certainly when you listen to Howie Long and Dave Wilcox, what you hear is what separates those just over 100 players that are here from the 18,000 that have played this game so far, and that's what's in between your ears. Many people come in with equal physical ability, but it is about attitude and about wanting to be the best and being willing to make that sacrifice, and certainly Howie Long as well as Dave Wilcox both made that sacrifice to be here.
Good point. Well said. When the list of 204 Hall of Famers is listed alphabetically, it will now say Lombardi, Long, and then Lott. When we come back, the induction ceremony for Ronnie Lott, Southern California Trojan, San Francisco 49er star, and perhaps the best defensive back to play, certainly in the modern era, maybe all time. Ronnie Lott's induction when we come back to Canton. Still ahead from Canton, the induction for Dan Rooney of the Steelers, Joe Montana of the 49ers, and coming up next, Ronnie Lott, the first-round pick from 1981. Still 2 more 49ers to hear from. 49er fans are ready. Back in Canton in a couple of minutes.
It's Red Muck and you.
The power of teamwork.
Once again, Chris Berman.
Ronnie Lott's impact was immediate, both literally and figuratively. Yet, as forceful as he was as a player, his inner force and respect for the game of football and life itself is perhaps even more impressive. For a closer look at Ronnie Lott's extraordinary career, why he was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and his very first year of eligibility, here is Andrea Kramer.
There's such a category as the greatest defensive back ever to play, it would be Ronnie Lott.
What part of your game do you think is most memorable?
Making people say, woo.
Ooh.
You know, making people go, woo, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he hit somebody that hard.
Crushing hitter. I mean, absolutely crushing.
I've seen some hits that he threw his body into people that no other player in this country, in the league would do.
And Ronnie Lott almost kills Mark Bavaro.
All right, tell me what a woo lick feels like.
Take your friend out in the backyard and let your friend catch the ball, and right before he catches the ball, grab a baseball bat and hit him. And I like to think that that's what it's like.
I wouldn't let Ronnie Lott hit me, man. I'm not crazy. I mean, I kept my eyes out for Ronnie Lott. I kept my head on the swivel. You know, I'm like, okay, where is he at? I mean, at all times I want to know where Ronnie Lott was. And the reason being is that he would come from sometimes 25, 30 yards running full speed. And if you didn't see him, I mean, it would be like getting hit by a Mack truck.
It comes from your toes. It comes from your soul. It comes from all of who you are, and you deliver that blow.
Ronnie Lott's hits were both ferocious and timely. As much as a Montana to Rice touchdown, his hits could turn around a game.
Woods again, his 5th carry. Oh, is he hit? What a pop by Ronnie Lott.
Super Bowl 23, Ickey Woods broke the line of scrimmage and Ronnie tagged him, really tagged him hard. And that was sort of the end of Ickey for that game, but also the end of the Bengals, too.
All hits are personal, but that was very personal to me. And the reason it was personal is because I just hadn't seen anyone hit him. I mean, I saw a lot of people admiring his dance, but I hadn't seen anybody really give him a hit.
The cliches about sacrificing one's body or leaving part of you on the field apply literally to Lott. At the end of the '85 season, he mangled the tip of his left pinky in a collision with the Cowboys' Timmy Newsome. During the offseason, Lott faced a choice: complicated surgery that would cost him playing time or amputation.
Being someone who had that no-fear attitude, yeah, I amputated it because I thought that it would allow my career to move on. Now, my kids look at it and they don't understand why my finger looks like E.T.'s head.
Obviously, one of the main components about being mentally tough is playing with pain, overcoming pain, and that's endemic to any football player. You took that to an extreme, though, didn't you?
Everybody hates pain. It's not a person who plays a game of football that just says, yeah, I like pain. But there are people who block it out. Pain will make you a coward. It'll make you weak. Therefore, when I played football, I didn't know what pain was.
Listen up, baby. Everybody sold out this week. Everybody. Damn, it's great, isn't it? You got it right.
With 4 Super Bowl titles and 10 Pro Bowls to his credit, Lott's legacy is secure. He's proud to join the old school players he respectfully calls raw dogs.
Nitsky, before he passed away, he said, Ronnie, you know, I could have played. You could have played on my team. That's raw dog. If Butkus would say that to me, or if Gail Sayers would say that to me, that's a hell of a, now that's raw dog. I mean, that's the ultimate compliment.
Whoa. To present Ronnie Lott today, we present the man who made the man, his dad, Roy Lott.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are here to honor 5 of football's greatest men. But I'm here especially to pay tribute to my son, Ronnie Lott, for all of his accomplishments on and off the football field. I could spend many hours talking about Ronnie's awards, accolades, and achievements. But today, I'm here to honor the man behind the helmet, the man who gave 100% off the field. Ronnie's dream was always to follow the yellow brick road. At the early age of 5, Ronnie started his path down the yellow brick road. It was at Bradbury Heights Elementary School in Maryland where Ronnie earned his very first trophy. And from that point on, he always wanted to be a winner. After leaving Washington, D.C., we moved to Southern California. In San Bernardino, Ronnie continued to pursue his dream of playing sports. Our family and several other families in the area were instrumental in starting a team with the local Junior All-American organization, helping to enrich the lives of children in the community. The San Bernardino Jets evolved, and that was the start of Ronnie's football career. While with the Jets, Ronnie developed many skills, such as leadership, being a team player, and his love for the game. We moved from San Bernardino to Rialto, California, where Ronnie continued to excel in all the areas in his life. At Frisbee Junior High and Eisenhower High School, Ronnie excelled in 4 different sports. Ronnie also excelled and studied very, very hard to receive the highest grades possible, and of course he did. While being a leader on the field, he was a leader at USC. Ronnie set an example by obtaining his degree in 4 years. A leader of his family, encouraging his children to become the beneficial members of society. A leader in his community, he developed an organization to help all children to have a better chance at life. All Stars Helping Kids sponsors many educational and health projects. These projects let children know that their hopes and dreams are only one step away. Ronnie, it was you God chose to do all these things. Ronnie, through his spirit of giving, leading, and love, has made the world a better place for all people, especially for those who've had a chance to have a friendship with the man behind the helmet. Ronnie's a man with heart. He never gave up doing his journey down the yellow brick road, no matter what the course had to offer. A man who maintained his integrity on and off the football field. A man whose character would make any man too proud to be his father. And today, I speak to all fathers. This could happen to you. As I reflect back, I'm amazed at all the good things God has done in our lives, such as blessing Ronnie with great success. There have been many times throughout Ronnie's career that our family has prayed, and we have talked about how our family has been blessed. As we talk, we're overwhelmed by and grateful for all the things that God has done in Ronnie's life. We thought about how we have been blessed with good health, food, jobs, and shelter. We thought about all the family, friends, and fans who have helped him in various ways. Some gave prayers, some gave advice, and moral support. That is just the tip of the iceberg. As our family thought about all these things, it made us think about you, Ronnie. It was you who worked, trained, and sacrificed to accomplish your goals in life. It was you who stayed up late studying in high school and college. It was you who stayed focused. You faithfully considered others. You helped make our community and the world around you better. Our world is made up of some amazing people, and you are one of them. God chose you for this journey. You chose to let him lead. In closing, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your talent. For we loved you so much, we were really, really pleased to be a part of this journey. Again, thank you for sharing your life with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you my son, Ronald Mandel Lott.
Thank you, Dad. It's funny because he said, did I do all right? You did all right, Dad. You did all right. Today, all this glory goes to God, and my dad just mentioned how God plays an important part in our lives. But as I stand here in the huddle of greatness, I feel so much of your spirit. This is truly awesome, the gathering of football legends. I mean, it's amazing. So I feel the spirit of these men who are not physically with us today. I think about the guys that are like Bob McKittrick, Derek Thomas, Eric Turner, Dave Wayman, Carl Monroe, John Ayers, Ray Nitsky, Tom Landry, and Walter Payton. These people inspired me through their unique contributions as an individual, and they continue to inspire me. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in the honor of these great men. There are many giants who've allowed me to stand on their shoulders to see success. No truly great achievement is ever the result of purely individual effort. And this is particularly true of professional football, the ultimate team sport. A football player can only realize his full potential with the support of his teammates, with the teaching and encouragement of his coaches, and from the challenge presented by his opponents on the field. I'd like to start by acknowledging some true giants, the owners and the founders of this great league, for nurturing this league, for bearing the cost, for sustaining this institution of professional football. I'm talking about people like the Rooneys. Of course, here, the Brown family. Leon Hess in New York. He's not with us any longer. I play for another man who helped build this league, Mr. Al Davis. He built the AFL and dominated it for many years with the silver and black. But in my mind, there has been no greater owner, that's right, than Mr. Eddie DeBartolo. He set the highest standard and has raised the bar for all the other owners to reach. Mr. D, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your Hall of Fame moment will surely come for what you've accomplished. Your 5 Super Bowl victories and building one of the most dominated franchises in NFL history. I will be here for that moment. I'm grateful for the Giants who sacrificed, who fought for what they believed, for who wouldn't give up. They carved the path of opportunity for players like me to follow. People like Paul Robeson, Marion Motley, John Mackey, Earl Faison, Jim Brown, Night Train Lane. Then there are giants I looked up to as a kid. One of the reasons I wear 42, Paul Warfield. One of the reasons I have so much compassion for my teammates, Gale Sayers. Charlie Taylor. Charlie Taylor. There's a man that I used to sit and dream about. And that Washington Redskin over the hill game, watching them and feeling their passion was awesome. I met one of my heroes early on in my life. His name was Deacon Jones. And at a banquet early in my career, he said to me, "Be the best." I took that to heart, and I tried to set his example of being the best. Deacon, I thank you. I couldn't have made it this far without my teachers and coaches. They were all giants in my life. My high school coach, Bill Christopher, who would make us listen to the General Patton speech. And I don't know if you guys have heard the General Patton speech, but I'd lay there every night in the dark thinking about what it's like to be an American and how we don't tolerate losers. It toughened our spirit and strengthened our resolve, and I appreciate it. Thank you, John Robinson, I know you're here. Who taught me how to compete at USC. You gave me so much. To Dennis Thurman. Dennis Thurman, you helped me with my skills. You helped me become a better football player. To Coach Ben Parks, who trained me at the end of my career. And man, if it wasn't for your faith, I don't know if I would have been able to make it. To Art Shell, a man of all men, and a great coach. To George Seifert, and Ray Rhodes, they taught me the art of defense. To Bill Walsh, he demanded perfection and set a standard of excellence for all of us to strive for. Bill, I'm forever grateful to you. Thank you. And to the players of this great game, the Warriors, the guys who love to hit people. I'm talking about the giants like Dick Butkus. I'm talking about Jack Tatum. Guys like Reggie White, Kenny Easley, and Jack Lambert. I know you're here with us. You were definitely a warrior. And to my teammates, Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson, Dwight Hicks, Jeff Fuller, Tom Homo, Rick Jervis, Keena Turner, Harris Barton, Fred Dean, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, and of course, Howie. Also, I want to mention two other teammates that I had at USC. And these two guys traveled with me throughout my 4 years at USC. Dennis Smith and Eric Scoggins, I love you. And to my favorite warriors of all, Marcus Allen, Charles Haley, you know what I love about you guys. Your undeniable love. I love you. To all the guys I play with, thank you. Throughout my life, it's always been a team effort, and I continue to have that in my life, and I know that being a part of the Hall of Fame, I always will honor this team. I'm especially grateful for one teammate, a giant of a man who showed courage and set an example for me and the rest of our team, Joe Montana. Joe, you gave me the courage to face adversity, the courage to deal with pain. You taught me never to give up. I thank you for your friendship and your inspiration. Joe, I'm so honored to be here with you today. I wish all of you had his soul. He's got a great soul, folks. A great soul, great human being. I want to say thank you as well to my family. I wouldn't be here today without your love and support. Mom, thank you for your great relationship we've had and continue to have. You gave me the gift of life. You taught me so much about it. For my brother, Roy. For my sister, Susie. You always supported me, and thank you. I love you. I give thanks to my sons, Ryan and Isaiah, to my daughters, Haley and Chloe, for your never-ending love. I give thanks to my wife and best friend. I love you. Karen, you are the best. I stand a little straighter and a little taller here today because of the greatest giant of all, my loving dad. He taught me to see success in all facets of my life. He taught me the values of life, the purpose for living. He taught me to have honor and to show respect. Dr. Edwards once said, the people who come to your funeral come not for what you've accomplished, but for what you stand for. Dad, you stand as our rock. I love you. And finally, to all the football fans out here, I hope you love this game as much as I do. I've been very fortunate to be around greatness this weekend. One of the things that I found out about greatness is the character. It's amazing when you're around greatness and what you see. I hope you guys all have the opportunity to feel like I felt this past weekend. Each and every one of these men behind me have given more than just their body and soul. They've given it all to you. They've given it all to you. It's an incredible feeling to be around so many great men. So many great men. And I want to thank all of you football fans for allowing me to be a part of your life. This is amazing. In closing, one day we'll look back at this moment, and we'll look back at this moment because this is the greatest moment in the history of football. To have all these great Hall of Famers here. And we'll look back at this moment. And it won't be because of what we've accomplished here. It's going to be because of what these guys have been able to accomplish with themselves. And I hope all of you understand that these men are not just football players. They're great men. They're great people. They love this game. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this Hall of Fame. Thank you for allowing me to touch all of your lives in a special way. Thank you.
Ronnie Lott, whose speech was much like his play, both showed great passion.
Yeah, Michael, the passion comes through. And, you talk about Ronnie Lott being a great hitter, but he was such a complete player. The 63 career interceptions, the team leadership, and I think we just got a little essence of all of it right here. But you're right, the passion is what drove him.
And so many people before him who had an impact on his career. When we come back, there's not a space to be had, and so many of them have come to Canton for one reason, to say they were there when Joe Montana went into the Hall of Fame. It happens next as we continue live on ESPN2. Few quarterbacks can say they did what that man did, perhaps the best ever, inducted when you come back. Back here in Canton on this beautiful late July day, a little humid, but it's time to be cooled off as we honor Joe Cool. Let's go back to Chris Berman.
I think you know who's next. Joe Montana entered the NFL in 1979. And he left an icon. His ability to win, his cool demeanor on the field were perhaps dwarfed only by his daily approach that he was a kid playing a kid's game. Some of us were fortunate enough to go along for one of pro football's greatest rides ever.
Montana takes the snap, back to throw, looking right, firing a pass set. Looks right, no one there, looks left, goes in the end zone, touchdown! He's done it! Joe Montana has done it again! What a play!
I think when I was growing up, sports was a big part of the area in western Pennsylvania and Monongahela because it was a way of life. I think that's what drove me, was I didn't want to lose. After you had that feeling of losing, I want to be there.
But there he was in San Francisco. Montana was drafted in 1979, and the 49ers went 2-14, just as they had the year before. But he didn't arrive alone. Eddie DeBartolo was the new owner, and Bill Walsh was the new head coach.
So then we go to the magical year of 1981. The stage is set for Dallas, championship game. Do you still smile when you think about that championship game?
I run into some of those guys all the time, and they keep, you were throwing that ball away, weren't you? But I do, and I think that was probably we heard so much about how much trouble the 49ers had with the Cowboys over the years. And for us to make that stride really told us something even larger about ourselves, that we could beat a good football team in a tough situation.
He rolls right, looking to throw, and he throws into the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown!
What's really funny about that play was earlier in the year in training camp, Bill calls Dwight and I over, and we're both going, oh, no, what kind of trouble are we in now? And he makes us practice this play, and I had to throw the ball 3 times in a row above Dwight's head, and not as high as I threw it in the game. But both of us are going, God, what is he thinking about, We'll never do this. We've never done it, never had an opportunity. And he just made us do it out of the blue one day. And little did we know that it would finally come into play at a turning point of a game.
And they beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-27, and now it's on to the Super Bowl for the Niners.
From that point on, things changed, because we had set a standard of our own play that we had to now maintain.
Maintain would be an understatement. From 1981 to 1990, the 49ers went 126-44, including playoffs, and with Montana at the helm, San Francisco won 4 Super Bowls, starting with the Bengals in '81. In 1984, a 3-point October loss was the only blemish on an 18-1 season, which culminated with a 38-16 crushing of the Dolphins. In 1989, Montana was league MVP. The Niners, now under George Seifert, went 14-2. They cruised through the playoffs, capping it by destroying Denver 55-10 in the Super Bowl. Montana threw 5 touchdowns and was Super Bowl MVP for the 3rd time. Between '84 and '89, though, there was back surgery, the brutal playoff loss to the Giants, being flip-flopped with Steve Young, and a 6-5 start in 1988. But the Niners got hot, and Joe was coolest, down 16-13 to the Bengals in Super Bowl 23 on a 92-yard march, even though he was racing inside.
I was pretty excited about the moment, and it was so loud that I was screaming at the top of my voice, and it just got to where I hyperventilated from yelling so much and trying to get guys on the ball, running down the field, screaming at the same point. And as I took the snap, I was a little bit kind of, I don't know, like that fuzziness on your TV. And as I put my hands under the center, it started to go away. I figured, okay, I'll be all right. And then as I started back from the center, it came back again. And so I just turned and threw the ball out of bounds. And then after that, I was fine once I got time to catch my breath. I don't know, it never happened to me before.
3-4 plays later, John Taylor for the touchdown.
The funny thing about this play, it could have been a disaster in a couple ways. Roger and Tom lined up on the wrong side. So if I had gotten a blitz from a back linebacker, I would have figured I was okay. But I wouldn't have been. It could have been a pure disaster. And but I think the play ended up turning out the way we wanted. We got the perfect defense for John, and he read it and turned his little hook route into a post.
He looks and throws, end zone, touchdown! Touchdown!
2 years later, in 1990, Montana was again league MVP. When he was knocked out of the NFC title game against the Giants, nobody knew that for all intents and purposes, his days as a 49er were over. In 1993, Montana began 2 seasons in Kansas City, complete with 2 playoff comebacks that year against Pittsburgh and Houston, followed by a regular season win against San Francisco and a Monday night masterpiece at Mile High Stadium.
He throws to the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown by Davis. Lord, you can take me now. I've seen it all.
Deep down, as you look back at it, did you almost know that might be the last command performance that you had?
To a certain degree, yeah. I felt inside that, you know, I wasn't looking forward to every day going to work, and it became work, and not, okay, let's go, I'm going to play a game today.
Call comes. By the way, Mr. Montana, you're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Were you like a little kid when they said, oh, by the way, you're in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, more so than I imagined, because I don't know, as a kid, it was, you could go out and pretend you were in the Super Bowl and pretend you're throwing passes, but you never pretended to make it to the Hall of Fame. It's pretty neat. I don't know, it's hard to fathom, because I don't, you know, like, it's not being a part of a team somewhere, but yet there's this great organization somewhere sitting out there.
Would you be starting quarterback on this team? It's tough.
I better.
To present Joe Montana, it is only fitting that he selected a man who played as large a role in changing the direction of the football played at Candlestick Park. He too arrived at the end of the 70s. And under his tenure as 49ers owners, San Francisco won 5 Super Bowls. Yes, his eagerness to win was supported in part by the size of his wallet. But much, much, much greater than that is the size of his heart. He made every member of the 49ers organization, from quarterback to water boy, feel important. Believe me, I know. Gives me great pleasure to introduce the gentleman, Eddie DeBartolo Jr.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What a day. I told Joe that I was going to have a speech in front of me, because this was not one you could wing. Before I begin to introduce Joe, I'd like to take a moment to congratulate all the other inductees today for all their inspiration and their outstanding achievements in this great sport of football. Dan, Howie, Ronnie, Dave, especially Ronnie. It wouldn't be right for me not to mention how much you mean to me. You were the heart and you were the soul of our defense, not for a little time, but for a long time. And I hope you know that I'm as proud of you today as I would be if my own son was coming into the Hall of Fame. My congratulations go out to you, Karen, your lovely family, for this very special honor that you're receiving today. Ladies and gentlemen, ever since Joe Montana asked me to induct him today, I've experienced emotions that go back and forth, but to say the least, they've been mixed. Besides being deeply honored, I have also agonized how mere words could do justice to a man whose impact on football reaches far, far beyond the sport itself. I'm not so sure it's possible to articulate such a legacy, but I'm going to do my best. Joe Montana, simply stated, was the greatest quarterback ever to play the game. And I don't think we'll see the likes of him again. The likes of which go back all the way to 1979, when I don't even think that Bill Walsh, with all his foresight and with all his brilliance, could ever have realized what we were in midst of when we took a chance on that skinny kid from Notre Dame that changed our lives forever. But we all knew greatness when we saw it. The fans of San Francisco certainly knew it, and so did the fans of Kansas City. Football fans everywhere were well aware of the fact that they were witnessing history in the making as they watched Joe turn losses into wins. What to any other quarterback would have been a career-making highlight was to Joe just another day at the office. A dramatic example was a game that we played in Cincinnati many years ago. The Bengals were ahead. They had the ball, and there was about a minute left in the game. All they had to do was use their 4 downs and run out the clock. For all intent and purposes, the game was over. In fact, I was so sure that the game was over that I was on my way down to the parking garage with my family to the car when I was informed that we had the ball back with 1 second left, somewhere around the 30-yard line. Joe marched onto the field, called an alley-oop pass to Jerry Rice, and the game was over. We'd won the game in 1 second. That, to me, is what football is supposed to be all about. Passion, dedication, camaraderie, and a desire for victory so strong that you can taste it. Look at any old picture of Joe Montana right after he's thrown a touchdown pass and you'll see it. Arms raised in the air, that special gleam in his eyes, and a grin full of pure joy. This is the spirit that defined him, the spirit that created the champion that he is. But excellence wasn't an accident for Joe. It was a habit, a singular act of talent and discipline. He was a master, and he was skilled in an art. The kind of player who could take his time and finesse his way downfield for a touchdown, or drive 90 yards in 90 seconds without ever perceiving it as an insurmountable obstacle. And if Joe didn't perceive it as an insurmountable obstacle, you can be sure none of his teammates did either. Whether 15 minutes or 15 seconds, Joe always maintained the same level of composure. He was a leader, the hero you always wanted to emulate, and a legend to behold. It goes without saying that Joe Montana's athletic abilities were phenomenal. But we all know that, don't we, or we wouldn't be here today. But there's more to Joe Montana than just what he gave us on the football field. I can never step off this podium today without pointing out that his heroics on the field, however impressive, are only a small part of his measure as a man. Joe, as much as I value your athletic accomplishments and triumphs, they pale in comparison to what you have meant to me as a friend. Besides personally showing me loyalty, unmatched by anyone who ever played for me. Your achievements as a son, as a husband to Jennifer, as a father to your grand family, and as a man are by far your greatest. Joe, I thank you, your fans thank you, and the NFL thanks you. Your excellence, courage, and your heroics will live in our hearts, and they will live in our dreams forever. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with overwhelming pride and love that I give you the very best of the best, Mr. Joe Montana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's well appreciated and overwhelming to hear that. It's deeply appreciated. It's kind of hard being up here after all these guys and standing in front of this group behind me. But I made a promise, which some of the guys so far have not been able to keep up with. Two promises, basically. One was to keep with my 8 minutes. The other was that Deacon Jones has kind of taken over as the gatekeeper and said that anyone that came up here without notes, he was going to be worried about, and I would ramble on. So I brought my notes for Deacon. I hope he doesn't mind. I got him, Deacon, just for you. But I do have them on this side. First of all, I want to say what a deep pleasure it is to be standing here today. An immense honor. As the guys have said before me, I want to start off by thanking the Hall of Fame for its welcoming not only my family, but all of our families here this weekend on a very special weekend. Tammy Owens, John Bankert, for all their help throughout trying to get us settled in hotels and seating, and it's got to be a difficult job, and I want to thank you very much for what you've done for all of us. I want to say congratulations also to a wonderful class of 2000. Not in any particular order, but to Mr. Rooney, I was always been a Steeler fan all my life. I grew up in Monongahela, Pennsylvania. Loved the Steelers then, love them now. It's always scary though when I see Joe Green sitting behind me. To Dave Wilcox, whose own son called him a cheap shot last night. He said he was an intimidator, and I believe him, because some of the film I've seen, as you saw, was definitely a force in this league. And another great part of the San Francisco 49er organization. To Howie Long, who chased my skinny butt around for so many years. Asked me to slow down a few times. Sorry I couldn't help him out on that. I think you could understand. To Ronnie Lott, who's meant to me not only on the football field, but off the football field, what a true man's supposed to be. Ronnie spoke, and Ronnie delivered. It's an old saying, you walk the walk and talk the talk. That's Ronnie. When he said something, he didn't just say it, he went out and did it. He was a great example to me to continue. There were times when we were down, and I've had a few injuries in my career. Ronnie was always the first there to pick me up. The same with anyone. In your personal life, on and off the field, Ronnie stepped up. When a guy was in need, he's there. Doesn't matter when, where, how far. His wife will agree with me that he's rarely home. Because he's fulfilling all these people who are in need. He's always got his hand out, and not to take, but to give. And to me, that's more special than anything. I think when you can say, when you ask someone to stand up for a member of your family, who Ronnie and Karen are the godparents to our youngest son, I think that says a lot about how you feel from your heart about a man and his wife. So Ronnie, I thank you for always being there over those times. It hasn't always been easy, and I appreciate it. I want to start kind of where that film left off, because it's kind of left everyone hanging there. And the Hall of Fame is a tremendous, tremendous honor. I had a very difficult time with it in the beginning, because I don't think I was looking at it in the proper perspective. I saw the Hall of Fame as an ending point. I mentioned to a couple people that in some ways I felt like, while I'm only 44 years old, I feel like I'm in my grave, in my coffin, alive, and they're throwing dirt on me, and I can feel it, and I'm trying to get out. And it wasn't until this weekend, these past 3 days, with these gentlemen behind me, spending the time with them, that I think I really got the true meaning of what this is all about. All my life, and most of these guys' lives, we spent from time to time going from Pop Warner to a new team, to junior high school, to a new team, to a high school, on to another team. For me, it was Notre Dame, on to a new team, the San Francisco 49ers, and then on to Kansas City. And in the middle of the night last night, I woke up. I had a whole other speech prepared. I turned the light on, and I told my wife, Jennifer, that I got the meaning, and I got to write it down, because I don't want to forget it. I've now seen the light that this is not an ending point. This is a beginning point. This is the beginning of the rest of my life, post-career, with a new team. And take a look at these guys. What a team it is. Now, granted, some of them are on the ugly side, but I can't help that. Try to do the best we can with them. But it is truly an honor to have spent these last days with these guys, people that I've looked up to all my life. I've grown emulating in my backyard, throwing touchdown passes. Can't say tackling somebody. I can outrunning Howie Long, beating Mel Blount. But it's been a joy, and they've taught me the true meaning of what the Hall of Fame is really all about. Because it is a beginning for me, and it's a beginning of a bunch of new teammates and a tremendous, tremendous honor. I want to thank them for showing me the light, not only in my football career, but to what this is all about. My hat is off to them for what they've proven on the field and again to me in the last 3 days. I, like all of them, couldn't walk away from this podium without thanking a lot of people that helped get me to where I am. We all started in Pop Warner, and I'm going to name off some coaches. I don't know if they're here. Carl Crawley and Cecil Palmer were Pop Warner coaches who kind of taught me the meaning of really not quitting, because as a kid, most guys want to quit the game. I tried to quit at some point between my father and those two gentlemen, got me back on the field and wouldn't let me quit in the middle of the season, taught me not to go ahead and be a quitter, to go in and stand in there. And the next year, thank God I came back to play again. I'm on to high school where, man, I thought was, did a tremendous, tremendous job at Ringgold High School and preparing kids, not just for football, but for later in life. Man went to bat for everyone. A guy named Chuck Abramski. Two other coaches back here that I dealt with directly that I have seen, Paul Zolak, Jeff Petrucci. I want to thank them for their support and continuing my growth as a quarterback throughout my high school career. Ara Parsegian and Tom Pagna. Who had the foresight to draft me along with the other 7 quarterbacks. Notre Dame was what I grew up to want to be. It was my first dream in my life, was to go to Notre Dame. I wanted to play for Ara Parsegian, and I wanted to be just like Tommy Clements. And I thank those guys for giving me that opportunity to get to the university. Another man that was very important in my life at the University of Notre Dame, his wife is here with him, Mike and Paulie DeChico, who threatened me many times, who was the fencing coach and our academic advisor, about making sure I was in class on time and didn't miss the class. And unfortunately, I had that card memorized and never wanted to see it. Please report to Mr. DeChico's office immediately. No excuses will be accepted. He became my surrogate father on the road. They took me to their house, and became more than just my advisor. I thank them for their help. Dan Devine, who continued my career with Merv Johnson, Ron Toman, and Hank Kuhlman, gave me the opportunity to fight back at the University of Notre Dame and to overcome some places where I never thought I'd be. All of us picture being at the top of the lineup and always being on the top, but it wasn't always that easy. I had to fight back from being 7th on the depth chart, and they eventually gave me a shot and hung with me in some pretty tough times also at Notre Dame. On to a guy that I had the most fun beating in any Super Bowl, Sam Weich, who taught me the basics of the game, reading defenses, reading coverages, how to study, how to prepare. Paul Hackett, who continued that. Paul, if anyone knows Paul Hackett, workaholic, work you to death and prepare you to death so that when you got in the game, you didn't say, God, I didn't know about that. You were prepared. Mike Holmgren, his work speaks for itself. Mike continued that, having great success with quarterbacks all over, with Brett Favre, Steve Young, and on down the line. George Seifert came in after Bill Walsh, who I'll get to, who gave us a chance, me a chance to fulfill my dream of continuing a Super Bowl career. Look back, after that, I got an opportunity to go on to what I thought was another great, great organization in the Kansas City Chiefs. With Marty Schottenheimer, Carl Peterson, who I see here, Mar Hunt, for that opportunity to continue a career when a lot of people were ready to give up on me. But the next few people, I think, are have had the most impact on my life, starting with the man who drafted me, Bill Walsh. There are a lot of things that I learned from Bill throughout my career, but I think the one thing that I continue throughout my life is that want to be perfect, the need for perfection. He pushed me and pushed us, especially the quarterback position, which he was so proud of, to want to be perfect. And if you miss perfect, you end up with great. And that he could handle, nothing else. He taught me to be the same way. The man who presented me here today, Mr. Edward DeBartolo. His family, Candy, Tiffany's not here, Lisa and Nikki are here. We've always been very, very supportive, and we've had a great time. But Mr. DeBartolo, as Ronnie put it, there are a lot of great owners in this league. There have been a lot. But I can't find one that's been any better than that man. His support to all our teammates, they know what I'm talking about. On and off the field, he was always there. When there was a problem, nothing would stop him from helping. His friendship that has continued long past my playing days and will continue is what I cherish more than anything. It's meant the world to me, my wife Jennifer, and my family. He's always been there for us, and I'll always be there for him. To two people that also brought me into this world, and I think also along the way I got the same sort of lesson about winning is what's expected of you. My mother and father, Joe and Teresa Montana. Brought me along and taught me to never quit and to strive to be the best, because there's only one reason of doing anything that you're set out to do. If you don't want to be the best, there's no reason going out and trying to accomplish anything. I thank my mom and dad for always being there through the thick and thin. They sacrificed their life to make sure I got up and down the state to play basketball, baseball, and football. It wasn't an easy job. Both of them working in the same office. That I can't figure out yet. But they were always there. They took me where I wanted to be, where I needed to be, and got me there on time, and made tremendous sacrifices to see that I was able to accomplish the things, and I had things that they never had, and I appreciate that beyond any belief or any words could ever say to them, and I thank them with all my heart. I want to especially take time also to thank my family that's traveled from Monongahela and around the Western Pennsylvania area and from all parts of the country. My family, my friends, my attorneys, my accountant. I've been there all the way from day one. When I first time I stepped onto a football field, they've all been very supportive. And a guy who I wish could have been there from the very beginning, and I've told him this many times, Peter Johnson, for his guidance throughout the time. Unfortunately, my association with Peter started when I tore the tendon off my elbow, so he's had a rough go with me since then. But Jennifer and I and the family have been very appreciative of all he's done for us. To Jennifer's mother and husband, Jan, for their support. To my kids, Nathaniel, Nicholas, Alexandra, and Elizabeth. I'm surprised this building's still standing with my Nicholas and Howie's little Howie around, because we both have a huge bill at the hotel for the damage being done. But for their support and their sacrifice also, but most importantly to my wife, and also my best friend, Jennifer. It's not the easiest living with an athlete. They'll all tell you. We seem cool and calm on the outside, but the inside, we're a mess. I mean, there's a lot happening in there, and they got to deal with a lot that people never begin to see. And I love her to death, all of them. And I thank her for her support and her sacrifice. She did the same also. She gave up a career so that I could continue mine. And as often as I don't say it, I do very much appreciate it. Thank you. And to all you fans, Kansas City, San Francisco, all over the NFL, I want to thank you for your continued support, not only for me, not only for these guys, but for all the NFL, because it is the greatest game that I've ever been around. And it'll continue to get better and be the greatest. I want to thank you all for being here and for help making a new dream for me come true. And that's being a part of another great team in the Hall of Fame. I thank you.
Joe Montana, inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So many moments, Tommy. What is it, a Super Bowl that comes to mind when I say Joe Montana?
Well, his career is so well documented, Mike, but there is a defining moment for me, and that is 1990, the 49ers against the Atlanta Falcons. Head coach of the Falcons, Jerry Glanville, decides that he is going to blitz Joe Montana and punish him for every throw that he's going to make, basically trying to make him quit in the game. Joe stood in the pocket, he took every hit, and he threw 5 touchdown passes to Jerry Rice. And when I walked away from that game, I thought, that is what Joe Montana is all about.
It's interesting. We've known for 12 years he was going to get into the Hall of Fame, but it hit him 12 hours ago. Hit him last night. One more inductee. The class of 2000 Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony continues from Ohio with a guy from across the border in Pennsylvania. The Rooneys mean something special to football. Talk about fathers and sons in the Hall of Fame. You have the Maras. You also have Art Rooney and now Dan. Dan is inducted after this. All right, back up to the stage and Chris Berman. Go ahead, Chris.
In 45 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has indeed seen it all. To help us see what Dan Rooney has seen, here is Dan Patrick.
Born and raised in Steeltown, USA, Dan Rooney took the franchise his father founded and turned it into a champion. In addition to 45 years and 4 NFL titles with the Steelers organization, he has also made significant contributions to the sport as a whole. Rooney's work has helped increase television and marketing revenues, end player strikes in 1982 and 87, and develop the salary cap and free agency systems, allowing the NFL to endure 12 years without another labor dispute. The oldest son of Art Rooney, Dan started his football career on the field.
I made second team all-Catholic team.
Right.
And I went to North Catholic. We had 1,000 boys. And the guy that beat me out was from a little school, St. Justin's, that had about 200 boys. And all the kids on my team said, how in the world could that guy beat you out? And I said, I don't know.
The first teamer turned out to be Johnny Unitas, who would later sign and be cut by Rooney's Steelers.
First time I brought it up to him, we were playing a preseason game when he was playing. And we were both at a ceremony, and I remember I got up and when it was my turn to speak, and they were all saying that the Steelers cut John Unitas, and, you know, that was the dumbest thing they ever did. And I told this story. I said, the reason we cut him is he beat me out.
Rooney's time with the Steelers, however, has been marked by excellent personnel decisions. Pittsburgh's dynasty may have begun with the hiring of head coach Chuck Noll in 1969. Under Rooney and Noll, the Steelers drafted 7 future Hall of Famers in 6 years and turned a struggling franchise around. In the ensuing 30 years, the Steelers have won 14 AFC Central Division titles and 4 Super Bowls. But with dreams of being an architect, Rooney's future with the Steelers almost never happened.
I encouraged him to stay in this business. I thought this was the best business to be in. So I thought it was important for him to carry on the work his father had started, and so it turned out the best way.
The best way meant always doing what's right for the franchise, the city, and the Rooneys. Following in the footsteps of his father, Dan has incorporated his wife and children into the extended Steelers family.
I think they wanted to be involved, and I think they looked at it as something that they were maybe accomplished something too. So I thought it was very, very good. I thought it was one of the real highlights of what we did as a family.
I think he'll always be involved. I don't think there's any such thing as retiring and moving on to do something else. I just think it's in his blood, and it's just something he, eats and breathes and, is part of him.
There are so many Pittsburgh Steelers in the Hall of Fame, 15. With undoubtedly more yet to come. To present Dan Rooney today, he has chosen perhaps the most decorated of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know his deeds. Today we get to hear his words. Mean Joe Green.
Hey. Thank you. I want to congratulate Dave, Howie, Ronnie, and Joe to our family. I first met Dan Rooney in the winter of 1969, which was my rookie year. I was young and cocky and aware of my great abilities. With my attributes in mind, I told Dan what I wanted to be paid. I said I wanted to be the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL. Dan immediately informed me that I was confused. We were sitting across from one another at the table. When I told him how much I wanted to be paid, Dan replied in a loud voice, "What? We can't pay you that. That's more than Marilyn Olsen, Bob Lilly, and Alan Page are being paid. They're all pro. And you haven't even played it down." Thus, our history began. Through 31 years of trust and respect, our relationship has transcended that of boss and player. Dan is a best friend. He is a man of great character and integrity. He loves and consults God. He loves and cherishes his family. He loves the Steeler organization, and he loves the fans and city of Pittsburgh. All of Dan's decisions are very, very difficult, but they're based on faith. You can read about Dan's devotion to God, his never-ending love and respect for his father, his love and loyalty to his wife of 48 years, his love for his 9 kids and his 14 grandchildren, and his love for his 4 brothers. You can read about the success of the Steeler organization, its championships, the team's competitiveness through 3 decades of changing dynamics in the business. You can read about Dan's impact on the NFL Management Council, which demonstrates his depth and scope on many, many issues. Dan has always led with humility. When things go as planned, Dan is in the background. When things don't go as planned, he's in the forefront. You can read about Dan's altruism through his service in his many charitable and civic organizations. But ladies and gentlemen, you cannot read about the great friendship and kindness Dan has shown me and my family. And I know many players who have similar stories. When I was a young player, Dan often had to steer me in the right direction. In my youthful exuberance to win, I was in everybody's business. I was always attempting to tell the coaches what plays to call and telling the players how to play the game. I even had the nerve to tell Dan he needed to get a player signed. Finally, Dan called me to his office and asked me, "Joe, do you know what CYA means?" After explaining CYA, he sternly said, "Joe, take care of Joe." I'm a professional football coach today because of Dan Rooney. In 1987, Dan agreed with Chuck Noll to hire me as a defensive line coach. When Chuck Noll retired, Dan invited me into the interview process to be head coach. Later, Dan told me that I was not going to be his head coach. I was disappointed, but I trusted his judgment. History has proven he made a good choice to lead his team. Whenever I've had a special occasion in my life, the times you want your friends to share, Dan or a member of his family has been there. Dan and Pat flew to Dallas for my oldest son's wedding. When he couldn't be at my second son's wedding, his son Dan was there. That means an awful lot. He has also included my family in important events in his life. Dan has not only exhibited kindness towards me, but has followed in his father's footsteps. All the Steeler players are a part of his family. I am most honored and proud to represent the Rooney family, the Steeler organization, all the former players and coaches, the city of Pittsburgh, and the fans representing our boss and our friend to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Dan Rooney.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate those remarks. Joe is always a champion. Are the Pittsburghers still here? I, too, want to thank Canton for really being so kind and great to us. My family is here. They're in this section. That's about half of my family. They go back there. But there are many to thank, and I do so now. I'm not sure that anyone beyond the league's founders who gave their time, their savings, their lives in establishing the National Football League should be in the Hall of Fame other than players. Today we have a group of players who brought this game to a new century. Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, Dave Wilcox, all 49ers. And the Raider, Howie Long. They have been very kind to me. I congratulate them on this most deserved honor. I want to express my appreciation to those who got me to Canton, the Steeler fans in Pittsburgh and beyond. They are the best, I should say you are the best fans in the world. Your support in good times and tough times has meant much to our success. The media everywhere who kept the fire in the Steeler fans and organization. Those who voted for me, I thank you all, especially Ed Bouchette. The coaches who taught me more about the game than anyone. The Steeler players from the 30s to the present. Good people, good friends. They played the game. Kiesling, Dudley, Stautner, Butler, John Henry, Lane. Then came the best team that ever played, the 70 Steelers. There are times, though seldom, when everything comes together, when a group of young men become a special team, where their accomplishments give them a time in history, not only winning, but being the best, and doing so with unselfish determination to be the best team, making the goal together. That happened in Pittsburgh. It was a glorious time. It began in 1969 when Chuck Noll, a young coach, arrived with the ideals and commitment to be the best, then assembled players with similar desires and convinced them that the goal was possible, not an easy task. But he never deviated and stuck to the basics. They began to believe that they could be the best. We are not here today to celebrate statistics. We are here to celebrate excellence and the accomplishment of people reaching a level collectively to be the best they could be, men of character, helping each other to reach the heights of human achievement. The first player to be assembled was Joe Green, a man of intense determination to win. I remember the end of Joe's first year. Not a very successful season. Philadelphia had the lead and had just made a first down with less than 2 minutes to play. As the Eagles broke the huddle, Joe was so frustrated, he picked up the ball and threw it into the stands. Many of you remember that, I'm sure. He does. But I knew right then that things were going to be okay. He went on to dominate opposing lines for a decade, to win games when things were not going okay. One game in Houston, to see if we would make the playoffs, Joe Green completely crushed his side of the Oilers' offensive line. We won a very tough game. Joe Green, a real Steeler, is a person of integrity whom I admire as a friend. I am privileged to have Joe present me for the Hall of Fame. Later came Jack Lambert, who would not tolerate any less commitment than he had from anyone in the organization. Players, coaches, staff, and yes, presidents. In 1972, Franco Harris came to the Steelers. Before that time, we never won too often. After he came, we never lost. Franco was a very motivating player in a quiet way. He is probably the most caring individual player I ever met. But there are so many on those teams that brought victory, I could relate heroics on all of them, but time doesn't permit. Remember Bradshaw, Ham, Russell, Webster, Blunt, Rocky, Swan, Stallworth, Shell, LC, White, Wagner, all of them. They all belong here because they all deserve to be enshrined in Canton because they were the best of the best. Other teams at times have considered themselves as enemies of the rest. The Steelers respected everyone they played as a tribute to the game. The league had no better champion because they carried the banner with pride and dignity. They were different in play as well as conduct, love for the game, the league. They were all proud of their differences. And there are players of the 80s and 90s who were terrific Steelers and accomplished much success. Woodson, Lloyd, Hinkle, Kirkland, Dawson are just a few, led by another special coach, Bill Cowher. The players and coaches made the Steelers, and I attribute my presence here today to all of them and to my father. My father, one of the early men who did everything to make the NFL succeed. It is special to join him here. He gave me the understanding of what the league meant. He gave me the commitment to do everything possible to keep it strong and viable. He, with Hallis, Marshall, Mara, Lambeau, Bidwell, Bell, Carr, were the men who forged the league. I wish my parents were here. Mom ran everything in our family, and she would be very pleased. Many of our family are here, especially Patricia, my wife. She is the one who keeps me straight. She was there always. She wouldn't let me fail. She is my conscience, counselor, and critic, a thoughtful critic even when I don't want a critic. Without her, I sure wouldn't be in Canton. Our children, Art, Pat, Rita, Dan, Duffy, John, Jim, and Joan are here. Our daughter Kathleen, who died, is with God. I believe she is here also. Our grandchildren, and my children's spouse, I should say, and our grandchildren, my brothers, nephews, nieces, the McGinleys are here, Art, as are the Steelers staff, those not in Dallas for the game tomorrow. I wish you would all stand up, the Steeler players who are here, my family, and everybody. Please stand up. I have been very fortunate to have all the support and encouragement. I was in the league with those founders. I knew 3 commissioners personally. Pete Rozelle was a special friend. We worked on many issues. He was great. He brought the game to modern times. Bert Bell before him was a Steeler and put the television structure in place. And now Paul Tagliabue deals with the complexities of a modern sport. All good people who knew and did what was necessary in their time. There are a few men who are members of the Hall who gave me much. Their contribution to the NFL has been substantial. Wellington Mara, the integrity of the league. Tex Schramm, how to get things done for the good of the league. Use Robert rules when they help, wing it when they don't. Tex, we miss you. Lamar Hunt's concern for the game. And thanks to all of our friends and owners. Jerry Richardson is there. Players who came here this morning. And I thank God for so many things that he has given me and our family. But as been said, this is a special time to be here. The new century, the return to Canton. All the important men of the game are here. And I thank you especially for making football the greatest sport in history. Now, I ask you to be watchful. See that the game remains the best. Strong, viable, flexible for the present day. No one can be more interested than you. You have much to guide you. Your own commitment, how you played the game, the people in the league, players, coaches, owners, staff, and fans. Commissioner Tagliabue provides the leadership for football as America's #1 sport. Gene Upshaw, a Hall of Famer, is committed to the game and wants it to be the best. The television networks, our family, our players. You have my commitment to do whatever it takes. The National Football League, the game, is your legacy. Protect it. Don't let anyone tarnish it. God bless you and sláinte you.
A very strong message and a fitting conclusion to the day from Dan Rooney, architect of the Steelers' success. We talk about great coaches, great quarterbacks, great defenses that make championship organizations. You have nothing without a great owner.
Well, a different measuring stick for ownership, certainly measured by the teams that you put on the field, and I think Dan Rooney stated it well. The best team to ever play, in my estimation, are the 70s Steelers, player for player.
Many of you are tuning in for the second round of the Giant Eagle Classic LPGA action from down the road in Warren, Ohio. Helen Alfredson, the 18-hole leader. That live coverage with Jay Randolph and Mary Bryan is coming up as soon as we're done with our business here in Canton. We have more to do. We'll get you to ladies golf in a little bit. It's been a historic and a great day here in the state of Ohio. Well, there are now 204 members in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, with Wilcox, Lott, Long, Rooney, and Montana inducted today. More than half of the 204 Hall of Famers here for the most special induction ceremony of all time. Ladies golf is coming up, and a final comment from TJ after this.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.
They estimate about 18,000 people were here today. That's a record for this event, and it was quite something. As we watched the speeches and all the Hall of Famers who came back, what stuck out for you, Tom?
Well, I thought it was very special. Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana going in the same class. And if there was one theme that we heard, it was Pop Warner football being mentioned, and what a dream come true this is for players and owners alike like Dan Rooney. So if you're a kid out there, begin the dream now. And maybe one day, if you're lucky enough, you get here.
And understanding the history of the sport, so many of these players talked about the people who happen to be behind them on stage, Hall of Famers. They had qualities of those people that they emulated, strive to be like them in certain aspects. And none of us are original. We've all pulled from different people around us for our talents, and we saw that with these 5 gentlemen too.
And let's not forget the over 100 returning Hall of Famers, which I think is really what made this day so special from the very start. And I think it's one of the main reasons we had so many fans come out and enjoy this with us today.
Next year, Jackie Slater and Art Monk are on the ballot for the first time. Maybe they, Lynn Swann, Jack Youngblood might be the group that goes in with Tom Jackson, Mike Tirico. Thanks for watching. Remember the NFL tonight on ESPN2. Later tonight, now LPGA Golf.
The State Farm Insurance Companies continue their commitment to women's athletics in this.
Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be. Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
From Canton, Ohio, welcome to ESPN Classic's Pro Football Hall of Fame Special. Now, here's your host, Solomon Wilcox.
Welcome to NFL 2000 here on ESPN Classic. It is a new century of pro football, and this is pro football's greatest reunion as 111 of the 136 living enshrinees have descended upon to Canton, Ohio for this weekend celebration. Welcome inside the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where earlier today 5 new members joined other football immortals here. 49er teammates Joe Montana and Ronnie Lott, Raiders Howie Long, and 49ers Dave Wilcox. Also Steeler President Dan Rooney. They make up the Hall of Fame class of 2000. We will spend the next 2 hours talking to the enshrinees and many of the living legends who have made the pilgrimage here to Canton, the birthplace of pro football. It is believed to be the largest reunion of any sports Hall of Fame at any one time, and it kicks off the NFL Century Celebration. Players like Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana. There were a record number of Hall of Famers here, 111 in all. It's just a season long of celebration, and we spoke with some of the featuring Hall of Famers earlier today.
You know, I'm just very proud of my 43 years in the National Football League, 7 as a player, 3 as an assistant coach, and then 33 years as a head coach. And then being back here with all these great people that have meant so much to the game, just a special weekend.
I'm an autograph hound. I just got my picture taken with Ernie Dottner over there, and I was sitting next to Leo Namalini, okay, and Gino Marchetti's here this year. I haven't seen him in quite a long time. Tried to get his number when I was with Baltimore. I was 89, but it was already retired because Gino did it. But it's just great to be here.
I look at it like, you know, I'm Paul Krause. Should I be here? I mean, you know, I see all the great football players, and you know, it's just great for me to be here because, you know, some of them, you know, were my idols when I grew up and whatnot.
Does it get any better? Not only 3 49ers, but Howie Long, who's across the bay in San Francisco. I mean, the whole Bay Area. This is, you know, a Hall of Fame weekend for the Bay Area. Plus the game on Monday night. Just for a San Francisco guy, it doesn't get any better.
Here's the list of Hall of Famers who were not in attendance this weekend. Johnny Unitas, Dick Butkus, and Lance Allworth, John Riggins, and the Tyler Rose Earl Campbell. Sammy Baugh is the only living member from the original class of 1963. But the most notable name on the no-show list is that of O.J. Simpson, who was invited to attend but did not respond. Now, there were scores of fans who did show up here today looking to get a glimpse of many of the NFL greats who were in attendance. The enshrinement ceremonies welcomed its new inductees by reflecting on their storied careers.
What a year to be selected to join these past greats. It is indeed an honor to stand up here in front of the greatest football players of all time and be included in that group. There are only so few that make it to this select group. Amazing, isn't it? Again, thanks. This is just so very special.
I'm not sure that anyone beyond the league's founders who gave their time, their savings, their lives in establishing the National Football League should be in the Hall of Fame other than players. The players and coaches made the Steelers, and I attribute my presence here today to all of them and to my father. My father, one of the early men who did everything to make the NFL succeed. It is special to join him here. He gave me the understanding of what the league meant. He gave me the commitment to do everything possible to keep it strong and viable.
I've always had an appreciation for the history of the National Football League. And today, the class of 2000 has the good fortune of sharing the stage with the many great players who helped pave the way for not only today's inductees, but the many players who play the game today. I, for one, believe that being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is the most prestigious individual honor in all of sports. In my opinion, baseball is America's pastime, but football is truly America's passion.
I'm especially grateful for one teammate, a giant of a man who showed courage and set an example for me and the rest of our team, Joe Montana. I stand a little straighter and a little taller here today because of the greatest giant of all, my loving dad. He taught me to see success in all facets of my life. He taught me the values of life, the purpose for living. He taught me to have honor and to show respect.
I saw the Hall of Fame as an ending point. I mentioned to a couple people that in some ways I felt like, while I'm only 44 years old, I feel like I'm in my grave, in my coffin alive, and they're throwing dirt on me, and I can feel it, and I'm trying to get out. And in the middle of the night last night, I woke up. I had a whole other speech prepared. I turned the light on, and I told my wife, Jennifer, that I got the meaning. This is the beginning of the rest of my life, post-career, with a new team. And take a look at these guys. What a team it is.
And here you see that only Roger Staubach had a better winning percentage among starting quarterbacks since 1970 than Joe Montana. But in addition to the .713 winning percentage for Montana are his 4 Super Bowl rings and 33 more wins than Staubach. Now joined by Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Namath. And Joe, you hail from Pennsylvania, so many great quarterbacks from the area, but let's talk about Joe Montana, who certainly was his moment in the sun today. He shows the true grit of a Pennsylvania quarterback.
You know what? Home is where it all starts, wherever you're from. Joe, being from Western Pennsylvania, most of us feel a special camaraderie when you're from the same area. Now I'm sitting up here watching Joe being inducted into the Hall of Fame, but meantime sitting over here is Otto Graham, Roger Staubach, Sonny Jurgensen, myself. You know, we're thinking, and we're hearing these guys talk about, well, Joe, the great quarterback, and he is, and he was. But we know it's a team game. And don't ever let anybody put the best label on a football player, because it is a team game. There's a guy named Archie Manning, who to me is the best quarterback that's ever played not to be in the Hall of Fame. It's because he never had a team. But Joe Montana, every time the challenge came up, he answered it and kicked it and came through. So if you got to pick one guy, you'd pick Joe. But on the other hand, if you look at the history of the game and you know football and you know that it's important with teams, I can't, excuse me, Otto Graham was my hero.
He was your guy.
Sonny Jurgensen could play for anybody. Bob Greasy, I mean, we're talking about just give us a team. So, and I know Joe knows that too. Joe is respectful of the opportunities he's had with his team, and he's carried himself beautifully over the years. So those of us that are humble enough to understand how we got here, accept Joe with open arms. You know what I mean? He's wonderful.
And he continues to be part of the legacy. Joe Namath, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Solomon.
We are just getting started from Canton, Ohio. Many more of the 111 Hall of Famers will join us on ESPN's Classics Pro Football Hall of Fame special. We sit down with Howie Long, who reveals that being a professional football player was not his goal. Andrea Kramer's hard-hitting conversation with defensive back Ronnie Lott. And Chris Berman's first of three-part interview with Joe Montana, who answers the question as to whether or not he should be the starting quarterback on the Hall of Fame team.
I better.
Welcome back. What a day it was for many of thousands of fans who made their way here for the weekend and saw the annual Hall of Fame parade. They got to see their heroes of the gridiron up close and personal. Now with Deacon Jones, class of 1980 Hall of Fame defensive end. And Deke, of all the years you've been coming here, what makes this weekend even more special in the fact that so many guys migrated back here to Canton?
Well, that's exactly what makes it special. I mean, the guys make the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. But they see 100 guys or more here. No Hall of Famer has ever done that. I mean, no Hall of Fame has done that. And to see all the guys in one room is a spectacular thing. And that's what makes it special.
Now, you virtually invented the term sack. There's no virtually. You literally invented that term. And now you see a guy like a Howie Long, who you watched him play in Los Angeles with the Raiders. And what comes to mind when you think about Howie Long in terms of how he played the game?
Aggressiveness. He attacked the game, and that's what I liked about it. He gets off the ball real fast. And, to me, the strategy of playing defensive line and being a good defensive lineman starts with the start. And if you don't do that, you ain't going to have time to get there. You got less than 3 seconds to get there. So, therefore, the start is very important. And very few guys don't work enough on the start because the pass rush is completed with the start. I mean, if you don't get off, you don't get there. And Howie was good at that. I mean, I love to watch him get off the football every down.
Now, you live in Southern California, watched Ronnie Lott come up through USC and with the 49ers, and you certainly love the way he plays the game.
Well, yes, I met Ronnie when he was in high school. I spoke at his high school, and I met him then. I had no idea that he was going to be the football player that he turned out to be. He's a vicious hitter, and I love vicious hitting. Now, you got one problem with Ronnie Lott, just like you have with all defensive backs, man. They close their eyes when they come into the pile, see? And then when your eyes close, you get to lick, so you get to feel Ronnie Lott's sting,
Hit anything that moves. Thank you, D.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you, Mr. Compton.
Mike Dick, a Hall of Fame member, class of '88. And Mike, when you look at this class with Ronnie Lott, the Howie Long, and Joe Montana, and then Dan Rooney as well, what comes to mind with these great athletes who join you in the Hall?
Well, first of all, they're very deserving. That's the main thing. And I think Mr. Rooney's contributions to football were so significant. I think it's the only father and son combination, his father and him. But I tell you, when you watched Ronnie Lott play football and you watched Joe Montana and Howie Long and those guys, Dave Wilcox I played against, so those are, and it's a great thing for the 49ers. 3 of them are 49ers.
Now, you were the first tight end to go into the Hall, but specifically when you look at Ronnie Lott, not too many guys can dominate the game from the defensive back position. What made him so special?
Well, when you look at a guy like Ronnie, you can't say it's only talent. It was heart. He loved to hit. People forget he played cornerback for a while. He made his biggest name at safety, but I tell you what, anybody that caught the ball inside against the 49ers had to pay the price. I saw some of those highlights last night, and I forgot how hard he did hit.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Greasy Hall of Fame class of 1990. Quarterback that perfect team for the Miami Dolphins in 1972. When you look at Joe Montana as a quarterback, nearly close to perfect, your impressions?
Well, the first thing that strikes me about Joe Montana is that he is not 6'4" and 6'5", 235, 240 pounds with a strong arm that throws the ball down the field. Like everybody thinks that quarterbacks have to be today to play in the NFL. He's about 6'1", 6'2", maybe 200 pounds at the most. Very intelligent, very bright, knows how to play the game. It just sends a message to everybody out there that you can play the game with intelligence and decision-making and accuracy and leadership.
Sounds a lot like yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
Talk about this is a heavy defense on this class of 2000. Look at Dave Wilcox, who played for the early 49ers team, and Howie Long and Ronnie Lott. Can you get your impressions on what they brought to the game?
Well, Ronnie Lott was, I love to watch him play, and I don't say that about many defensive players. Same way with Howie Long. You know, you talk about intimidators in the game, Deacon Jones and Dick Butkus. Howie Long was one of those types. And I played against Wilcox way back when I was first coming into the league, and I told him, I said, see, I was at a disadvantage because you were at the end of your career and I was just starting. I didn't know what I was doing. So those guys are really good.
All right, thanks, Bob. Joe Montana, the author of 31 fourth-quarter comebacks. We may think of him as Super Joe, but to Montana, he was just an ordinary Joe.
I always tried to be as normal as I could. And people were always, I can't believe I ran into you in the grocery store. Well, I got to get groceries too. You know, I like.
It's Saturday. Watch the hottest action.
All ages and ability levels, and makes a great gift too, so call now.
To no one's surprise, Joe Montana checked in at number 25 among Sports Century's top 50 athletes. Now the Emmy Award-winning Sports Century comes to you every weeknight at 8 p.m. on ESPN Classic. It's the top 50 and beyond with all new and original shows. We spoke with the ultimate original Joe Cool himself earlier today.
We're with 2000 enshrinee Joe Montana. Joe, we're close to Western Pennsylvania. I'm sure there's going to be a large contingent from Monongahela today.
Yeah, I got a crew here. I got a couple busloads coming in for the ceremony with my aunts, bringing in a few. So there's a lot of people coming in.
Does that make it even more special for you today?
Yeah, it makes it tougher. I was telling everybody that the hardest speech I ever did when I went back and spoke in front of all my friends and family, because there's nowhere to hide. Everywhere you look, you know somebody.
We're also joined by Edward DeBartolo, who will be presenting Joe today. Mr. DeBartolo, I don't think it's any exaggeration to say this is probably the best third-round pick you ever made.
Well, without question. Without question. I'm really excited for Joe, and I'm excited for football in general.
Tell me what he means to the 49er organization.
He meant everything. He was the heart and soul of it. That's why we're here today.
Joe, one last question before we let you go. Of all the moments in your career, you've had so many comebacks, and everyone makes such a light of the catch. Is that the greatest moment in your career? Is that the thing that stands out the most?
Oh, I think it's one of them. Between that and the touchdown pass to win the Super Bowl. But the catch is pretty important, I think, in the history of San Francisco. It kind of got us over a hump that was a stumbling block for a long time, the Cowboys, in that game. So if I had to pick one, it'd be tough between that and the Super Bowl.
So an extra sense of pride going in with Ronnie today, and Dave Wilcox, also a 49er.
It's great. I mean, 4 guys from the Bay Area. I mean, and Ronnie makes it extra special because a great friend and a great player.
Thanks, Joe. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Few did it better in a playoff setting than Joe Montana. In fact, nobody has more passing yards in the Super Bowl. Montana has 2 of the 5 highest game totals in history, including a record 357 yards in Super Bowl 23. Everyone knows that Joe Montana led San Francisco to 4 Super Bowl titles and earned an unprecedented 3 Super Bowl MVP awards. But the true measure of Montana's magic may become even more clear when you consider that in his 4 Super Bowl appearances, he attempted 122 passes without throwing a single interception. Here is part 1 of Chris Berman's conversation with Joe Montana.
I'm going to go to January this year. Call comes. By the way, Mr. Montana, you're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Were you like a little kid when they said, oh, by the way, you're in the Hall of Fame?
It was pretty exciting, more so than I imagined, because I don't know, as a kid, it was, you could go out and pretend you were in the Super Bowl and pretend you're throwing passes, but you never pretended to make it to the Hall of Fame. I never really even thought about that. The funny thing about Canton is my uncle lived there, and we spent a lot of weekends driving by the place. And my first football game was one of the old Hall of Fame football. Those things kind of brought it together and makes it somewhat more special. It's hard to fathom because I don't, like, it's not being a part of a team somewhere, but yet there's this great organization. I'm not too sure about what it's all about and what's in there. There's really nothing tangible. None of us played games together, although we played against each other, and I've seen films and videos of a lot of those guys, but it's really hard to put my finger on it.
Would you be starting quarterback on this team? It's tough.
I better.
Pretty cool you're going in there with all these guys.
It's pretty neat. And no matter who you go in with, but when you have a really good friend like Ronnie Lott going in with you, and I think the world of Ronnie, not only playing with him, but playing against him at USC, and it makes it sweet.
You guys were part of something pretty special, the two of you. I mean, he was a rookie, you were almost a rookie when it all started. So for him to, has he become not only a great teammate, I mean, he's remained one of your better friends, I assume.
Yeah, he has. In fact, he's godfather to our youngest, who actually, just like Ronnie, wants nothing but contact. He's looking for ways to wrestle, and it was funny because years ago, Nicholas was, who was our youngest, he used to throw the ball to his older brother and let him, just so he could tackle him. And then the next year, my older son got faster, so he found ways to find, just like Ronnie, a way to run into somebody.
You've chosen Eddie DeBartolo to present you at Canton. That's a unique relationship, a quarterback and owner, to be such good friends, because maybe it was helpful that you were almost the same age.
I treated him as a friend, and I wasn't up and down, and when he would ask if I could help him in things, and if I was free, I would help him. And I just treated him like another person, and I think that was the strength of our relationship. And I knew he was the owner, and I knew who he was, and yet I treated him like the guy sitting on the bench next to me.
He loved being treated like that. That was probably very special to him, just to be a regular guy. That's Eddie.
It's really, really a pleasure to be your owner, but it's much deeply more a pleasure to be your friend.
A lot of people, try to go overboard with him because of who he is, and he sees the difference, and it's not hard. But mine and Jennifer's relationship was genuine always, and will always be, and that's why he's presenting me.
The knack for winning, which I will admit, Joe, you're pretty good at. The will to win, the ability to win. Does it have roots? No one tells you, here's the book on how to win.
I think when I was growing up, sports was a big part of the area in western Pennsylvania on Monongahela, because it was a way of life. When you do something, you want to be the best at it, or there's no sense of doing it, and that entails winning, as far as I was concerned. And I didn't care what I was doing, whether I was throwing in a contest with my next-door neighbor throwing pieces of paper in the trash can. I still wanted to beat him.
What is it about winning? It goes back to high school or Pop Warner. I know you were a great high school basketball player. Actually, might have been you. Were you equal, or do you think you might have been a better high school basketball player than football?
I thought it was better. I don't know whether I was or not. I enjoyed the game a lot more.
Really? Basketball?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I just think that it was one of those games where you're never on the bench. You're always playing one way or the other. Now, unfortunately, because of some of the injuries, I can't even run up and down the court more than once or twice.
You're almost like an Elvis figure. I mean, and does that amaze you that that actually happened, that this has happened?
It's hard to put yourself in that position. And so I always tried to be as normal as I could, and people were always, I can't believe I ran into you in the grocery store. Well, I got to get groceries too. You know, I tried to do, you know, as much as I could all the time and be as normal and be out as much as possible. Because otherwise you become a prisoner of, you know, your home. And I used to get to the point where I never would go to places like an amusement park with Jennifer would take the kids and they'd come back and tell me about it. I'm missing all the fun. I can't do that.
It had to shock you that this game that just has always been fun to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That it was a job.
Yeah, it was. It was very, very hard to handle. And because it had switched so quickly, it made it difficult to deal with mentally for me. Because I was so used to being a kid, even at 30-some years old. I still was 13 or 14.
I'm now joined by Hall of Fame offensive tackle Anthony Munoz, class of 1998. And Anthony, you would be wearing 2 Super Bowl rings if it wasn't for the heroics of Joe Montana, and I'd be wearing one, having lost against the Niners in Super Bowl 23. But are you still mad at him? Because I certainly am.
Well, this weekend that he's been inducted, you can't be mad at him. But after this weekend, yes, I'm mad at Joe Montana, and I still have nightmares, especially come Super Bowl time when you're running the highlights of all the Super Bowls. I mean, it's like, 11 years now, 12 years since Super Bowl 23 when he hit John Taylor for that last, not last second, but under a minute touchdown to beat us down in Miami. And, of course, before, I think you were in high school, we played him in Super Bowl 16 when I was first in the league, since I'm much older than you, Solomon. He had a tremendous game, and it was one of the first Super Bowl wins for him. But it's just like, we got to settle for that AFC championship ring and wear that around instead of wearing the world championship ring. So, he's a great quarterback, and, with less than, 3 minutes left, 92 yards, you figure most people can't take a team and score, but he did that.
Now, you played with 2 pretty good quarterbacks yourself, in Kenny Anderson and Boomer Esiason. In your estimation, what made Joe Montana so special?
Well, he's a competitor. He's a winner. And I believe, I wasn't in their huddles, but I believe he rose the other players' will to win and elevation of their performance, and that's what you need in a quarterback, a leader. And you mentioned 2 quarterbacks I played with, Kenny Anderson and Boomer Esiason, and they were similar to that. They did that to their teammates. And you got to mention his supporting cast. I mean, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, they had a pretty good offensive line, and then defensively they were pretty good. But you look back at his career in college at Notre Dame, and you can see the come-from-behind victories, and he just carried that over into the NFL and had many of those, not to mention the Super Bowl wins, but to get to that first Super Bowl against us in Pontiac when he throws that last-second pass to Dwight Clark. So he's just, his will to win is above a lot of people.
Now, you had a chance to spend a lot of time with Joe Montana this weekend. You take Joe Montana, the mystique, and Joe Montana, the man. Are there any differences?
Well, you see a lot of humility, a lot of appreciation. You see it being a privilege to be here this weekend and being inducted in the Hall of Fame, as I was 2 years ago with all these great players, and that's what this place will do to you. You might be, as a quarterback, there might be a little arrogance, a little cockiness as most have, but I think when you get to this point and you're here, all that is erased, and that's what I saw in Joe as he walked around, as he mingled with the guys. You saw some great humility, and there was a true appreciation of being here for this weekend.
All right, thank you, Anthony.
All right, Solomon.
We are at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where you're looking at the helmet of former New York Giants quarterback Y.A. Tittle. Don't go away. When we come back, we'll talk to more living legends.
Episode, Monday at 8 on ESPN Classic.
Sports Century, the top 50 and beyond.
Hall of Fame coach Chuck Noll. And Chuck, you look at Mr. Rooney, of course, part of the National Football League, pretty much his whole life, coming to Steeler training camp since he was 5 years old, comes into the Hall after his dad. What has the Rooneys really meant to the National Football League?
Well, they've contributed so much. I mean, besides starting it,
and making it grow. Dan was probably one of the cool heads, you know, when problems arose. And I think his guidance is the big thing, and it's done it very well.
I know the Rooneys have done such an excellent job of really creating a family atmosphere in the Pittsburgh area in terms of the players. But of all the great players to play for you in the 70s, why do you think he chose Joe Green to do the induction ceremony?
Well, you know, I think Joe was the start of the whole thing. You know, you remember the headlines when we drafted him. It was Joe who, you know, that kind of thing. Well, I think that's, you know, that's a statement.
They're not saying Joe anymore. Being back here in Canton, the birthplace of football, 111 Hall of Famers coming back. How special is this weekend, and what does it signify?
Well, you know, I think it's very special from the standpoint you get guys together and the old war stories start up. But again, it's a statement of how the league has come along. You know, the growth of the league, the fan interest, the whole thing. And to have guys want to come back, you know, is really a statement.
Chuck Noll, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pittsburgh Steelers president Dan Rooney joins his father in the Hall of Fame. Has to be just a tremendous honor. Your father founded the team in 1933 to join him in the Hall of Fame.
It's just a tremendous honor, and this whole thing is just a humbling experience. It's been great, but to come in and join him is just a special feeling, and I'm without words.
Now, you began attending Steelers training camp when you were 5 years old and really been working in the front office for the past 45 years. Does this signify just really a great testament to your life's work?
Well, I don't know that. I've been there all that time, and it's I got to say it's been fun. You know, you were one of our players, so it's been fun every year. A lot of people talk about dying years, but it's always been great. I've had fun every year I've been involved.
5 Super Bowl teams in the past 25 years. What is your vision, not only for the Steelers, but for the league as a whole as you move into this 21st century?
I think the biggest thing is that we got to keep the game is the important thing. I think that we need to concentrate that the game is the important thing. That's what brought us here. That's what got these great players here. But that's what the fans, who are the most important element in the whole thing, is the fans, and we got to keep the game for them.
Dan Rooney, thank you very much.
We are with 1980 enshrinee and the first Oakland Raider in the Hall of Fame, Jim Otto. Jim, how special was it to be the first Raider in the Hall of Fame?
It was very exciting. It just, every year when I come back here, it just becomes more and more exciting to me, that I am a part of this Professional Football Hall of Fame.
How often do you get back?
I get back as often as I can. In the 20 years, I've been back here, I think, 13 or 14 times, just on this day. But I've been also here on like in March and April just to walk through the hall by myself and be here. So.
What do you remember best about your induction day?
I was very nervous. I wanted to say the right thing for everybody and give the accolades to people who helped me, and I didn't want to forget anybody. And then also just the excitement of being here, just gets your mind going, and it's difficult.
During Howie Long's 13-year career, he left it all on the field, saving absolutely nothing. As a result, his bust grew west quietly here in Canton.
At the end of the day, at the end of your career, if you do not give 100% to everything you do here, the classroom, the practice field, the game field, it will haunt you the rest of your life. I sleep well.
Day, a double instant classic starting tomorrow at 6, only on ESPN Classic.
Welcome back to the Hall of Fame here in Canton, Ohio, where former players like the Raiders' Howie Long are living a dream come true. But Long's trip to Canton was anything but automatic.
All right, we're with 2000 inductee Howie Long. Howie, the 10th Raider to make it into the Hall of Fame, but the first Villanova Wildcat. Any Wildcat pride today?
Yeah, I'm pretty thrilled about it. I think everyone's excited. There's a pretty big contingent down here from Pennsylvania. They're all pretty excited. You don't have an opportunity to get with anybody while you're here because you're pretty well booked up, but tonight should be a pretty good night.
We're also with Earl Leggett, who will be Howie's presenter and defensive line coach with the Raiders. Earl, how early on did you think, or did you know you had a star in your hands in Howie Long?
As soon as we got him, there's no doubt about it. You know, we knew that he was going to be a real good football player. Now, as far as going, making the Hall of Fame, you don't know. But we knew he was going to be a real good football player.
Howie, when you first got to the Raiders, you had colorful characters like Ted Hendricks, Lyle Alzado, Rod Martin. Were you ever in awe of this team when you got there?
Well, I said I've been fortunate enough to have been around a number of great players who defined what not only the Raiders were about, but also what pro football was all about. And when you're around players like that, it's easy to have things to shoot for.
How special is today for you?
I'll tell you, yesterday was pretty special with the Hall of Fame luncheon, and from what I gathered today will be also pretty spectacular. I'm looking forward to it.
Howie Long, enjoy your day. Thanks a lot.
Very much.
Among Raiders who are in the Hall of Fame, nobody has been to more Pro Bowls than Howie Long. Art Shell has been to 8 Pro Bowls, while Long played in every Pro Bowl from 1984 to 1988. Howie Long treated every offensive lineman as if they were standing in the way of his inevitable arrival here in Canton. His rare combination of speed and power allowed him to dominate the NFL's trench warfare for 13 seasons. Before his enshrinement, we sat down with Howie Long, who made it his goal to become a Hall of Famer some 16 years ago.
I'm maybe the worst tackler because I never played as a kid. And, people don't realize you learn how to tackle as a kid. Because when you get to pro ball, you don't tackle anybody in practice. Think about it. It's all, get your hands on the guy and stop. I was more of a disruptor. I think I played on my first team when I was 14 or 15 of any kind. Our football field was, I believe it was Rutherford Highway, which was not really a highway. It's a 2-lane road in front of Hood's Milk in Charlestown, Mass. And the field, honestly, the field was maybe about 8 feet wider than this room. So it was about 25 feet wide and about 50 yards long. And that out pattern, on the highway side, it was the real dedicated player that went and got the ball on the out because you were playing basically in the freeway. When I went to bed at night as a kid and dreamed about doing things as an adult, it was playing professional hockey. But unfortunately, because I grew rather quickly, had problems keeping in the skates, because even then, I think a good pair of CCM tacks were, in the neighborhood of $100. So that was a lot of money. So I grew out of hockey quickly. Many start the journey that is a career in the NFL, but very few end up where I'm going this summer, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. And one of the many people who I ran across in my 13 years, he said, at the end of the day, at the end of your career, if you do not give 100% to everything you do here, the classroom, the practice field, the game field, it will haunt you the rest of your life. I sleep well. I wasn't always perfect. I made mistakes, but I always had a great deal of respect for what the NFL stood for. I had a great deal of respect for the people I played against, and I gave every ounce of effort I had. And there's nothing left to give, and I'm glad it's over because I'm exhausted. When you're 21 years old or you're 20 years old and you ride up in Oakland and Gene Upshaw and Art Shell are the guys you're seeing every day in practice, that's a pretty good group to break in with. The person who is the singular most important person in my career was Earl Leggett by far. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He came up to work me out. I got in a 3-point stance, took 2 steps upfield, planted my left foot, and came inside. That's all he wanted me to do. And he left, and that was it. It was a bit much at first. It took a while for me. I recall sitting in the meetings and them going over, out of east, near eye, right, they like to run, flip 68 toss tag or 14 Bill Jokereau or counter 66 Trey O.T. And I remember honestly thinking to myself, looking around in the room, kind of trying to be inconspicuous, you know, is anyone else not getting this? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. And then the physical end of it. When you don't know how to play, football is far more exhausting. And when you're getting taken to school on a daily basis by, you know, guys like Archell and Gene Upshaw, it's a tough lesson to learn. And really, I quite honestly did not think that I was going to make it my rookie year early on. You expend probably 50% more energy as a young player. If I could get in a uniform right now and be in great shape and be able to compete, boy, I'd be hell on wheels. You know, because you just see things, the game slows down and you see things so much smoother. I learned more about football from Ted Hendricks in terms of schematics and how a team was running plays from certain formations. And we're playing the Miami Dolphins, and Don Shula's running a play that he ran with the Baltimore Colts, and Ted Hendricks is yelling at him on the sideline what an insult it is that he's running that same play from that same formation, and, you know, Don, you can do better than that. But that was Ted. He rode into practice on a white horse one time. He set up one of those kind of tables that have the umbrellas in them, you know, kind of a Spanish, Mexican restaurant table with a pitcher of beer, and sat out there in between the two fields and said he was taking the day off. Ted was a character, very funny. When Al Davis is your owner, you can't help but set your sights at a higher level. The way I was brought up was he's the boss. And I didn't call him Al. I called him Mr. Davis. He drafted me. He paid me poorly early on. I have to say this. He's a tough man. You either love him or you hate him. There doesn't seem to be a real gray area. He drafted me. He paid me. He believed in me. He was always there for my family. So I have nothing but good things to say about Al Davis. For me to sit here and say anything less than that would be, I think, cheap. But it's very rewarding. My kids can be proud of what I accomplished. You know, maybe you periodically get a, wow, Dad, you were all right. You want your boys to think you were something special. And, you know, it's not until now that I can comfortably say, yeah, I was all right.
Now joined by Hall of Fame offensive tackle Anthony Munoz. And Anthony, you look back at the career of Howie Long, who you played against and was in a few battles with Howie Long. What impressed you most about his game?
Well, let's see, where do we start? I mean, you know, first of all, you look at the guy and his size, tremendous strength, quickness. You know, you're talking about a guy who's 275, 280, and you talk about quickness. But I think the one thing that really put him over the top as far as a great player was his smarts. There's many a times where he would pick up little things that the quarterback did that would give him an edge on the snap count, and so many times the offensive player has the advantage, but he would eliminate that advantage, so now you're equal as far as the snap count. So that was one of the things that he would pick up, and he would get a jump on the offensive lineman. And the strength, because if he got the corner on you and got the rip on you, it was most of the times it was tough to combat, and you ended up turning, which, you know, offensive linemen don't want to turn the shoulders, and he would do that. But you knew when he come over the left side, which he didn't do a whole lot, but there were several times where we battled it out, that it was going to be a tough physical battle every single play he was over there.
Now, Howie Long was a second-round pick out of Villanova, and unlike most Hall of Fame players, he did struggle somewhat in his first 2 years in the league. What adjustments do you notice that he made in order to make himself into a great ball player?
Well, I think, you know, I didn't come out of a smaller program like Howie did, but I would have to say it was a confidence level. You know, you get into the NFL, and I think we all go through that. I'm sure you went through that when you first, you know, came to the Bengals, as I did 1980, is, you know, you're kind of sure but not real sure, and then all of a sudden some things start working, and you say, well, now I can do it. And I think that's what happened to Howie. He saw that, hey, I have the physical tools. Now I have the confidence, and he put it together.
As we said, you had your fair share of battles with Howie Long. I'm sure you won the lion's share of those battles, but give me a sense of what it was like.
Well, you know, we have a tendency to really focus on the physicalness and the intensity, and we got that. I mean, it was, you know, after the game on the flight home, if you played in L.A., or Monday morning after the game, you knew that you were in a fight with Howie Long. But, you know, like I said, you focus on that, but then there's the funny side of Howie Long. I mean, you're all intense, ready to play against him, and then, you know, Boomer Esiason, who was our quarterback, gets hurt, and we put our second-string quarterback in there, and at the time he was in his third or fourth year, maybe 24 years old, but he looked like he was 13, 14, and Howie's in the stance, we're in the stance, and you got Howie Long, Greg Townsend, Golick, all these pretty good defensive linemen, and Howie looks up and says, hey guys, where'd you get that paper boy for the quarterback? And I mean, it's just, you know, what are you gonna do? Keep that, you know, scowl on your face? We start busting up. So that was a time when Howie was doing the chunky soup commercials, and our quarterback, you know, he thought he was gonna be rough and tough, and the next time we go back to the huddle, and he remembers what Howie said, and he turns back to Howie and he says, Howie, why don't you just go eat your chunky soup? You know, we just started busting up, and Howie almost lost it. But, you know, getting back to, you knew that he was going to bring it every single play. Some guys would take a play or two off and then really come, you know, maybe the third play. But, you know, if you were in there for 3 downs against Howie, it was going to be 3 downs that he came 100%.
Great stories from Anthony Munoz. Thank you very much.
All right, Solomon.
Anthony Munoz from the class of '98 will join us again later as we continue this ESPN Classic Hall of Fame special.
Thanks very much.
In just the second game of my rookie season, I witnessed firsthand the sheer magic of Joe Montana. We had the 49ers down by 2 touchdowns with less than 2 minutes left to play. Fearing the punt would be blocked, our coach, Sam Weiss, decided to run the ball in order to run time off the clock. Well, when time had run out, Joe Montana had already secured 2 touchdowns and a stunning come-from-behind victory. Why was Montana and the 49ers offense so amazing? Here is part 2 of Chris Berman's interview with more from Joe Montana.
We was cool, not cool, like, ooh, I'm the coolest, but as calm in high school, you think back, or at college playing football as you were perceived and were as a 49er?
I think I've always been this way, and I don't know whether it's just because I didn't get excited about winning as much as maybe it's because I hated to lose more than winning was what was expected of you. And so, you know, as soon as winning that game was over and you won, okay, no big deal. That's what we had. That's what we came to do. But I was probably a little tougher on myself when we lost. But in most cases, I stayed pretty much inside myself more. So I wouldn't say I wasn't excited or wasn't depressed, but my wife says I don't show my emotions enough anyway. So that probably goes right along with it. I feared losing more than anything, the will to win should be there in everyone, but losing is part of it. You're going to lose. You can't win every game. But I think that's what drove me, was I didn't want to lose. After you had that feeling of losing, ooh, you know, I want to be there. And it's going to happen, but it makes it happen a little less, I think, if you have that fear of it.
So you drafted by San Francisco and you meet a guy named Bill Walsh, Joe. Did you ride, in some ways, I don't mean to make it easy, ride his coattails? Did he ride yours? Did you ride together? His ride was as good as we've ever seen, by the way.
In the beginning, I was on his coattails. And I think as our careers went on together, we kind of fit together pretty well. And for some reason, I could understand what he wanted. And I basically was him on the field. And I didn't try to get out there and change every play because I didn't like it. You know, I wasn't that. But if something happened on the field and I didn't like the situation, I had that freedom and I knew that it was okay. And he got to the point where he could trust my judgment all the time, because a lot of times if I even had a question, I would try to stick with what he wanted. Because in most cases, you know, we could make something positive even out of a bad situation because of the style of offense we were in. And I think he kind of liked that feeling.
This, quote, West Coast offense, which you brought to the forefront. 20 years later, it's still pretty good.
It became so natural to you. I mean, half the time it's just a reaction more than anything. And that's what made the offense fun, is because it was tough. We always tried to keep pressure on the defense. And, you know, they'd get up, you could hear them getting frustrated and see them because we threw a pass for 4 yards. And here in their mind, they're thinking, well, he only gained 4 yards, but in our mind, we're going, that's just like a good run. You know, so we're 2nd and 6. Well, we'll take 2nd and 6 instead of 2nd and 10. And that's what we tried to do.
What makes a great leader in the huddle? Is it just everything? I guess there's no...
Well, I think the biggest thing that I always try to do is just be yourself, because you start trying to be something else, you know, the guy who's kind of quiet, and you get on the field and then you're all rah-rah here, or the total opposite, where you're all up on the practice field, and then you get in the game and you clam up. You know, there's a big difference there, and you can't fool your teammates. They know what you're all about, and they can see that difference. And I always tried to be the same as much as I possibly could. And granted, I'm going to get upset in a game for throwing an interception or whatever it may be. And you know, I'm going to have my ups too, where, you know, you make a play or something and you're going to jump up and down. But in most cases, that was just me, and when I was off the field also.
Your vision better than anyone else's back there? I mean, I know you say it's ingrained in practice, but I know there are some that played against you or played with you that said that those eyes became lasers.
They're working on getting laser surgery now. No, I think I felt like I had pretty good vision around the field, but the one thing I prided myself in was the fact that I knew where everybody was, and when I was in trouble or somebody was covered initially, I didn't hesitate to try to find somebody else. And, you know, I always considered myself a mailman, really. They gave me a package, and I had to give it to someone who knew what was in it and what to do with it, because I could run, but I wasn't a runner. But the other guys are, and that was what they were getting paid for, so I was happy to give it to them.
Well, that's where the mail's always delivered in, what is it, the rain, the snow, and the dark of night.
Sometimes I had trouble in the rain.
There you see the bust of Broadway Joe, who carved his niche in NFL folklore. Like Montana, Namath hails from Western PA. We'll be back with Hall of Famer Otto Graham.
This is ESPN Classic.
Talking to Dan Fouts, Hall of Fame quarterback from the class of 1993. And Dan, you talk about quarterbacks, you got to at least talk about Joe Montana. You lit up the skies with great artistry in terms of passing, but Joe seemed to do it in another way.
Well, he won. He won a lot, and Montana did it with great style, great class, and you know, there'll never be another Joe Montana, and I'm very happy that he's inducted.
Talk about the system that he played in, because it's certainly inherited from the system you played in, playing for Don Coryell, who learned a lot from Sid Gilman. Same with Bill Walsh, who modified some things. Talk about the scheme and the way that they were able to really take the passing game to a whole nother level.
Well, I think the advantage that he had is that he worked in the same system his entire career. You see a lot of quarterbacks change coordinators or head coaches throughout their careers, but Joe was able to stay with Bill Walsh's offense, and because of that, he had great success. It was a rhythm, timing offense, short passing game that really took advantage of Joe's ability to read the defenses and to use his great anticipation.
Conversely, as a quarterback, you look at the secondary, and the guy that you want to read when you first step up to the line of scrimmage is the safety. What made Ronnie Lott so difficult? Why did he cause so many headaches for quarterbacks?
He's smart, you know, and he played all the positions, and he was an all-pro at all the positions in the backfield. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And then the physical part of the game, probably nobody hit as hard as Ronnie Lott. Our receivers always wanted me to be aware of where number 42 was.
All right, thank you, Dan. We thank Dan Fouts for joining us, and he's just one of many Hall of Famers who spent some time with us. When we come back, we'll spend time with the Kansas Comet, Gale Sayers, when we return.
In anticipation for your free DR chipper catalog and video. There's no obligation. So call now, 1-800-553-1515.
5 seconds left. Kramer back to pass. He's going deep down the right side, and it is fought for, and it's touchdown!
This is ESPN Classic.
Sports Century. Hurricane Carter. Did he or didn't he kill 3 people in a bar in Paterson, New Jersey? The former middleweight contender spent 18 years in prison before winning his freedom in 1985. The story of Reuben Hurricane Carter, Monday at 8 p.m. on ESPN Classic. See pro football's greatest moments and games on ESPN Classics. Friday night NFL at 9 p.m. Eastern. See NFL films, past games of the week, and other NFL specials every week. While you're getting ready for the football weekend ahead, have a weekly look back with ESPN Classic Friday night NFL at 9 p.m. Well, that's going to do it for now. We would like to thank our gracious host, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, for their generous hospitality. We would also like to thank many of the Hall of Famers who took the time to share their intimate and memorable stories with us today. And finally, we would like to thank you for joining us here on ESPN Classic, where the stars of yesterday are still performing today.